She's like, yes, daddy, lure me. Dark romance could never. So there's something really alluring about him confessing wanting to eat you carnally. I get it. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back, friends and travelers. I'm Persie. I'm a romance author with a background in performing arts and a former pick-me. How's it going? So, yes, unfortunately, the title is not clickbait, no matter how embarrassed I am to admit it. So, what is a pick-me? According to the internet, quote, a girl who seeks male validation by indirectly or directly insinuating that she is not like the other girls. This is often done by putting down other women or shunning feminine things in order to seem less difficult or more appealing to male peers, end quote. Now, I smushed a couple definitions together, but you get it. You know what I mean. Now, am I proud about it? No. Am I excited to admit that on the internet, especially after so many new friends have joined the chat? Hi, by the way. No. Was this a personality trait that I formed intentionally? Also no, but we'll get there. But see, because of being a pick-me, I never read Twilight as a kid. So the first movie came out when I was in 7th or 8th grade, so there was a huge wave of people suddenly getting into the books, adoring the movie, and becoming diehard twihards. Do we still use that term? Whatever. And then on the other side, there was an equal amount of people who were jumping on the hate train, just talking about how stupid sparkly vampires were. And unfortunately, I wasn't the latter. Because see, I wasn't like those other girls who were head over heels for Edward and like were getting into romance or whatever. Because I was reading the House of Night series, which is significantly worse. Oh man. And I hate to say it, but the House of Night series really does have a soft spot in my heart. No matter how awful they are, because they're awful. And part of that, I think, is because it was the first book I ever read that had a non-white protagonist, but that's a story for another day. I will read and recap that entire series if one person asks me. Don't blame me. I am a woman of the people, after all. But today is all about Twilight. You see, over the past decade, I have shed the pick-me skin, and I've become a conscientious girl's girl. Very proud of it. And over the past couple years, I have gone out of my way to go back to revisit media I never allowed myself to enjoy before. It started with me watching Pretty Little Liars, thanks to Mike's Mike, as millions of us have. And while I enjoyed the show as much as someone can with a fully developed frontal lobe, it made me kind of sad. It made me sad thinking of little Persie, who would have loved this show at age 13. Now, should I have been watching it at age 13, given how many groomers are main characters? Not important. But she would have loved it. And that melancholy feeling I get when I get really into the PLL drama, it just got me thinking about Twilight. Because if I'm going to revisit pick-me media in an attempt to heal that little part of me that still wants to stick my nose up at it as like a defense mechanism, then I have to start with the OG, not like other girls, Bella Swan. We gotta put respect on that girl's name. But see, I have technically read Twilight twice, actually, and this is where it gets interesting. Because I read it in college, because I used to talk shit on it so much. And I realized, if I'm gonna talk shit, I better cross my T's and dot my I's. I'm not gonna do this secondhand nonsense that some of y'all be doing, no. And then when Midnight Sun came out, I had a podcast with my friend where we talked about books, and we wanted to speed read Midnight Sun in a night in order to get an episode out within a couple days. And I was the only editor on the team, mind you. And for some reason, I decided to partner read Midnight Sun and Twilight. And I'm gonna be so for real with you, I don't remember anything from either book. It's really just a blur of coffee, sunrises, and Red Bull. I don't remember anything. I don't even remember editing the podcast. I'm gonna be so... All of this to say that while I have read Twilight, it was never for fun, but only ever for information to dissect and to judge, and it makes it a really different reading experience when you're only trying to find fault. It's not fun. And honestly, I have learned so much lore around this book. And I used to say, no, it's so you can know how dumb this book is. Like, I promise. But honestly, I think it just fascinated me. And then I realized over the past 10 years, I've never stopped thinking about Twilight. Ever. I know so many fun facts, and I have so many theories and headcanon, and the story has shaped how I view the relationship between author and story and fandom and impact, and I literally have always called it my favorite think piece that I could probably write a thesis on, so write I did. And with the Twilight Renaissance that happened over the past 2 or 3 years, the movie is wormed its way into my heart as a bit of a guilty pleasure with my friends. I watch it kind of ironically, but I watch it with full enjoyment, and I just, like, my best friend and I want to take a girls' trip to Forks. It's just, And then one day, my mother-in-law asked me, "Are you sure you don't just like Twilight?" And I couldn't answer her. So let's find out together. Do I like Twilight? Okay, intro done. I get to sit back a little bit more because my back is starting to hurt. So, of course, since I have only so many pain-reduced hours in the day as a disabled person, I have a craft I need to get done. There's actually, I have realized an issue. I ain't gonna be able to see shit with this yarn. Whatever. But today I'm knitting a vest that's gonna be part of a costume for an upcoming video. And yes, we're in spring, and the only real spring thing about this is the fact that it's an Easter egg, but I think it's more important for this video that we channel the hoa 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 vibes, no? And knitting with brown yarn just does that. So, I have 12 rounds I need to do. I'm gonna be lucky if I do 1. So, and so before we start to break down the story, I do want to start with how I decided to break down this book. Annotation! So I bought this book secondhand, and apparently, they actually hadn't gotten many copies of Twilight, only of the other one, so I was very lucky to get this. But I'm in the process of buying physical media as a whole, because in this day and age, if you own something digitally, no you don't. And for something as iconic as the Twilight book, at least the first one, I do hope to get all of them, I feel like it's important as a paranormal romance author for me to own this. I have to respect my elders. I just do. And that being said, I actually am in the process of building a website so I can get my current book, found a gift right there, off of Amazon, and hopefully not have to put my future books on Amazon. Digitally, at least for now, hopefully I can get to the point where physically they're also not on Amazon, but since their Kindle policy update, I just want you to be able to download my books and know that no one can take them from you. If you don't know, Amazon changed their policy so that any book you own in the Kindle library, you are not buying the book, you're buying a license to the book, and so they can take it or change it however they want, whenever they want. So, if you don't know, now you know. I know everyone's talked about it, but it's important to me for you to be able to own the shit you pay for. And since I own this book, that means I gotta annotate my heart out. I gotta write whatever I wanted, okay? And for my metiches out there, I'm gonna tell you what my annotations were. So, this was my color scheme to match the movie. I'm sure you cannot read the pencil, but that's my color scheme. Top down, it says, "Oh, so she's depressed. Bella. Oh, she is funny. Mormon? Question mark. And Eddie Y." And I'm considering doing an annotate with me video where I walk through and annotate 2 different books. One I annotate for pleasure, and one I annotate how I break down a book like an author in order to work on my craft. So if that is something that you're interested in, let me know and give me an example of the books down below. Again, Women of the People. For this book specifically, I was reading for enjoyment. So that means my little tabs are silly goofy in general. I was also taking notes in a separate Word document so I could have direct quotes. I referenced my own annotation notes. It just took a lot to really work out all of my thoughts because I have so many of them. And I did try really hard to not let the movie impact my reading experience. I wanted to experience this as naked as possible. And all this is important because while the story is small, there's a lot of words in here, but the story itself is small, the world itself, at this point, has gotten massive and hard to break down. So I guess the only real way to start trying to tackle and to talk about the cultural phenomenon that is the Twilight book is to just start at the beginning. So, Twilight was published September 27th of 2005. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary, which is also why I wanted to do this video. By Stephanie Meyer, a proud Mormon, which I only mentioned because it's relevant. Yes, death to the author, but their work is their tombstone. So, we're going to keep that in mind all throughout this revisit. Now, originally Twilight was meant to be a duology of books called Twilight and Forever Dawn. Banging title, which was then turned into Breaking Dawn, which is a much less banging title in my mind. And with that in mind, I think Twilight is a pretty great standalone book. And it could have been a very interesting duology. Do I think it's a well-constructed story? No, but things don't have to be good to be great. And now, while reading this not good great book, I found myself bewitched. I unfortunately had no choice. I had to unhinge my jaw and just swallow it whole. Now, I do want to add in a trigger warning real fast. Trigger warning for self-ending romanticization, or as we call it, craving the bug. Age gap relationships, not including Bella and Edward, but them too. Depression and abuse, speculation, specifically parental abuse. Also, trigger warning for Mormonism. And also talks about food and eating and healthy eating, quote unquote. Nothing too in-depth, but it is there. Because I'm going to be talking about everything in this story and in between the cracks. And I probably think about and talk about this story with much more seriousness than most people have ever thought about the book, period. And don't worry, we're still going to keep it light. We still got the jokes. We got the hee-hee ha-has. But if you ever feel like there's a moment where you're like, there's a lot, I might have to come back to this. Don't worry. Step out. Put yourself first. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next one. And I'll make sure no one takes your seat. Promise. And so we start with the story with a preface that I think really gives us insight into Bella's, like, as a person. The opening line is, quote, "I never gave much thought to how I would die." And then, "Surely it was a good way to die, in place of someone I loved. Noble, even." End quote. Which is banging opening page for a young adult romance. Credit where credit's due. I hate to say it, I was gripped. Actually, no, I don't hate to say it. That's the point of this video. I will proudly say that I was gripped at this opening prologue. Because it really sets the tone from the get-go. We know our girl is depressed and self-sacrificing from the get-go. And she never strays from that. She tells us who she is, and she means it. And while part of me wants to, like, roll my eyes at the melodrama and the overtopness of it all, I can't help but eat it up. Because, you see, well-adjusted adults don't have big feelings like this. Not saying that an adult wouldn't die in place of someone they loved. Not at all. But unless it's their child, I think most well-adjusted adults would think of the loved ones that they're leaving behind. For the most part. You know, it's pretty broad speculation. But I mention that because we understand consequences and teens don't. That's the joy of having a fully cooked frontal lobe. And teens feel with their entire heart and their entire being and their soul, and that's captivating. And Bella, no matter how many people try to tell us, she's an old soul, she's an adult, she's the parent of the group, she's a teenager. She is 17, and I'm not gonna let you forget that. She ain't cooked up here. Not yet. Not yet. Would it ruin my shot if I got a light? I can't see jack shit. Hold on. Can I hide this in my hair? Does this ruin my Bella cosplay? Let's pretend it's part of my hair. Okay. Oh my god, there's a world of difference. Oh my god. Okay. After the preface, we jump back to the beginning of the story. So Bella's in the process of leaving Phoenix, Arizona to move to Forks, Washington, and she is dreading it the entire time. She talks about how she's exiling herself. She talks about the entire drive, how she's mourning the loss of the sun and the heat. And I don't think that perpetuates the rest of the story, but I kind of wish it did. I love the irony of our vampire girl loving the sun. That's the type of irony that I really can't help but appreciate. Now, why is sun lover, scorching heat enthusiast, city girl Bella Swan moving to tiny town under perpetual cover of fog, Forks? Because of her dumbass mom. I fucking hate RENEE. I hate RENEE Dwyer so much, and I had to learn her last name for this video because, see, I was going to make a joke about how she's a woman who always has to have a man's last name, but I didn't know her last name. But then, in researching, I learned on the fan wiki that her maiden name is Higginbotham. So, yeah, I changed my name too, okay? I can't blame her for that one. Let it be on the record that I'm not someone who thinks that you have to change your name unless you want to. I'm someone who wants to. But it took me 2 years to come to that conclusion. I have a really sick-ass IRL maiden name, just saying. And it took a lot of discussion, and by discussion, I mean I was talking at my partner for 2 years, and every single time he would say, it's whatever you want, baby, whatever makes you happy. So it a lot of communication back and forth. Personally, I'm making my maiden name my second middle name. It doesn't matter, okay? Don't let anyone strong arm changing your name. It's yours, unless your name is fucking Renee Dwyer, and then no matter what, you suck. God. I just wanted to make fun of her because this is a Renee hate page, not because she changed her name. And she centers a lot of her thought around men. I want to make that clear. And if you also hate Renee, don't forget to subscribe. Look at the pretty sparks. Thank you. So, Renee and Phil Dwyer, I think that's how you say it, are moving to Florida. And at the airport, Renee tells Bella, you know you don't have to do this. To which I ask, so what is her other option, Renee? Move to Florida for a couple months, then move back to Phoenix in her junior year when she should be applying to colleges? Because they go to Florida only for a couple months and then almost move back to Phoenix and at the last minute decide to stay in Florida. I'm like, there's never a plan to this. She's still in high school. And Bella talks about it. Like, if this doesn't work out in Florida, then they're going to be having to try all over the country for different baseball teams for Phil. Which my question is, Phil, look for yourself and then move your family. What are you doing? So again, I have to ask, what is her other option, Renee? Because I got a theory. A book theory! Sorry. Because, see, I think Bella's other option was to be forcibly emancipated. And we'll build that defense together as we go through this story. And so my first point of evidence is that it's very clear that Renee actually has no plan for Bella to go to school, because what do you mean she can come with you last minute when her transcripts have already been transferred and she's already enrolled? I know you're not going to do that, first off, Renee. Especially because you don't know if you're gonna stay there for very long. Like, they're only in Florida, I think, a couple months. So was Bella just supposed to skip school? Start school? What? And we know that they're not sure if they're gonna stay in Florida because they keep the house in Phoenix. And I don't mean that they rent it, that they still own it and they rent it. No, I mean they just keep it there paid for and empty in case they need to come home. And that's how Bella talks about it. She talks about the Phoenix house being home. And also, it's a lot of work to get school transcripts transferred in 2007 across the country. Like, that's a lot of work. And I know Renee's not going to do that, so. And I think that you'd agree with me that I don't think Renee's going to be homeschooling Bella anytime soon. Like, she got free spirit things to do, okay? Her day's packed. And if that's the case, she would probably have Bella homeschool herself, which is just incredibly irresponsible. Renee seems like the type of person that would have Bella homeschool herself because she's better at doing it, you know? So if we read between the lines, I think it's safe to say that Bella probably felt she really only had two options, which was to be emancipated, stay in the Phoenix house by herself, or move in with Charlie. And I think she picked Charlie because she didn't want to be alone. See, Bella has abandonment issues literally this entire book. She is so scared of being left alone. Even before the whole vampire stuff happens. Because it gets worse. It gets worse. But even now, she doesn't like it. Well, let me rephrase. She likes being alone. She doesn't like being left behind. And I think Renee would have left her behind. Because given the character of Renee, flighty, impulsive, forgetful, all words used to describe her in the book, it's safe to assume she probably waited until the last minute to tell Bella that they were moving to Florida. And I have no in-text proof for this, but I would believe if we learned that Bella comes home and Renee already had her bags packed. By the way, we're going to Florida! How exciting! And that just really breaks my heart a bit for Bella. And maybe she wouldn't have been, like, legally emancipated, you know what I mean? That's taboo. I could see Renee being like, but we'll be back! And if we don't, then you get to come with us. Like an afterthought, you know what I mean? It's just smarter that way. Because it's important to remember that Bella's the one to make the decision to move, not Renee. Renee doesn't want her to go with Charlie. She doesn't like Forks, doesn't really like Charlie all that much, but I'll talk about that in a second. Doesn't really respect Charlie as a father. So it's not like at the urging of her parents that this is happening. But, speaking of Charlie, on the other hand, is so excited for Bella to come stay with him. He's already enrolled her in school. He buys her a truck as a welcome home present, and not just a truck, but a vintage truck, capital Truck, that's been taken care of, so he knows that it's reliable, so he can keep his little girl safe, which she loves, by the way, because she's a lot like her dad, which is very sweet. Also, let it be known that we've learned Bella used to spend all of her summers as a child here in Forks, but over the past 3 summers, when she said, I don't want to go to Forks anymore, I don't like it here, instead of forcing her, Charlie said, okay, and instead took her on vacation to California for 2 weeks. Every single summer. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say that those 2 weeks are all of his vacation time, all of his sick time, and probably he saves up all year just for that. Because California is expensive, and it was even back in 2007. So, he's not perfect by any means, but Charlie at least thinks of Bella as a daughter, while RENEE thinks of her as a friend. And that's a huge, huge difference. And I'm trying really hard not to conflate Book Charlie with Movie Charlie, because I've seen a lot of people talk shit on Book Charlie like he's nothing like Movie Charlie, and Movie Charlie is great. And in this book, he's okay. There are a few things that I can poke fault in, and quote, fault we will, but he ain't that bad. There's like a couple things that he does that are not okay, but he's also a single dad from 2007, so I think the historical context of like what was considered okay and not okay is a little important to consider, but we will talk about that when we get there, don't worry. Either way, the contrast between the two of them, it is shockingly stark, and it makes me wonder, why does Bella call him Charlie? Because he wants to be called Dad. She's only allowed to call him Dad to his face. She's not allowed to say Charlie. But in her internal monologue, she only ever calls him Charlie. Which leads me to believe that RENEE only ever referred to him as Charlie and never your dad intentionally. Which feels icky. It feels like she doesn't want to admit that she had a child with Charlie. No, it's not your dad. It's Charlie. It's over there. That distance that she insists on putting between herself and the consequences of her own actions, like, girl, that's your baby daddy. Whether you want to admit it or not, you guys are tied for life, akin to family. Don't deny him that, but more specifically, don't deny her that. That's her family. Miss me with that shit. And it would be a different story entirely if he was an awful person. Awful person. Awful to Bella, awful to RENEE, what have you. Even if he's like a bit of a jerk. Okay, yeah, I get it. You know, fuck him. Like, I would understand. But he loves his daughter. And he has respect for you. At least enough to use language like, your mom. I called your mom. Your mom called. Call your mom. Make sure you keep her informed. Check in with her. She's gonna worry. But you see what I mean about me thinking about this story more than most people? Because I don't think most people on simmering on the weight and the implications of Bella only ever calling Charlie Charlie. But I am. Because I'm crazy. I'm an insane person, plagued with these thoughts, and refuse to keep them to myself any longer. Anyway, I'll drop the RENEE hate for now. She'll be back, don't worry. She has her own section at the end of the video. But Bella makes it to Forks, and Charlie, he gives her time to decompress, which she appreciates. But Bella, like, tries to make it this thing about how he's awkward, and I'm like, girly pop, so are you. You and your dad are damn near the same, so I don't know what you're talking about. Also, it's not weird to give someone time to themselves when they've been traveling all day. Also, a fun fact about Bella's truck, or a fun personal fact, I should say. Every time Wub and I see a young girl driving a big vintage truck, we say that she has main character girl energy, and then we try to decide what type of main character girl does she radiate. Is she giving magical letter? Is she giving stumbling across magic portal? Is she giving finds cursed amulet? But I think you should try it. It's a very fun game. And also let me know down below, what type of main girl energy do you exude? Personally, I think I exude... Ooh, hold on. Oh, fuck. Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. I just have chronic pain. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. No, okay. So I think I give... stumbles across magical secret book of forbidden knowledge, and it consumes her ever-waking thought. I could just said Dipper Pines. Anyway, Bella drives her beloved truck to school, and she is the shiny new toy. Everyone wants to be her friend. Well, everyone except for a weirdly attractive group of 5 students off in the corner by themselves in the cafeteria. Roll call! We got big boy. We got a big boy. His name is Emmett. Massive. The most gorgeous woman she's ever seen, our blondie, Rosalie. A tiny, beautiful pixie with a chopped hairdo named Alice. A blonde boy who looks constipated named Jasper. And, of course, the most gorgeous man she's ever seen in her entire life, Eddie boy. So she finally sees Edward. And, interesting, Bella can't decide who's the most attractive. The perfect tall blonde or the gorgeous bronze-haired boy. And to which I ask, hey, Bella, do you cuff your jeans? Because she mentions a few times how gorgeous and breathtaking and perfect that Rosalie is, in the exact same way that she talks about our Eddie boy, who's our main love interest, in case you've never heard of Twilight. Don't know why you're here if that's the case, but... And I have a very not so subtle, and I think widely accepted theory, that Bella is a repressed bisexual, and if she had access to a vibrator, this would be a very different story. But I don't think it'd be nearly as compelling. And even this early on in the story, Bella's already clocking that the Cullens are weird. She notices the gorgeous boy. His lips are moving almost imperceptibly fast. And while the other teens are not looking at him, she gets this weird, strange feeling that they're still listening to him talk. And honestly, every time this comes up, all I can hear in my head is... And that's not relevant to this video in the slightest, but if I have to think about that every single time that secret vampire language comes up, so do you. And so, after lunch, we follow Bella to biology, where she officially meets Edward Cullen for the first time. And he looks like she smells like shit. And he wants to kill himself. This partnered with the fact that he's out of his seat before the bell is even done ringing. It just solidifies her fate. Because from that moment on, Bella, against her better judgment, is obsessed. And I do genuinely mean that it is against her better judgment. And personally, I think that's one of the main reasons why this story can work. Because, spoiler alert, once they're together, it gets boring. But right now, she thinks he's gorgeous and weird. And she doesn't like him. She thinks he's kind of rude and kind of an asshole. And she literally drives home crying the first day because she feels so shaken that he had such a strong reaction just to sitting next to him. And I'll be so vulnerable with you right here, right now. This would drive me crazy. I would need to know what the fuck is his deal. It would haunt me. And the next day it haunts her. She literally stays up thinking about, like, how can I confront him? How can I find out what is his deal? Because what was that about? And so then the next day, when he's not there, she takes it personal. Which I would too. What the fuck did I do? And I bring this up to build out Bella's character chart because she hates that he doesn't like her. She doesn't even like him, but she just hates that he doesn't like her. And I think that's partially because he was angry with her. Not just not like her, he angry with her. And she doesn't know why or how to fix it. Because in the office after school, she catches him demanding to switch classes. And when she walks in, he glares at her. And she says, I quote, "He turned slowly to glare at me. His face was absurdly handsome, with piercing, hate-filled eyes. For an instant, I felt a thrill of genuine fear." End quote. To which I wrote, kinky. What do you want from me? I'm human. And the next day, she can't help but feel guilty that it's her fault that he's mad at her. And for a moment, she thinks it's egotistical and self-centered to be worried about that, but that doesn't alleviate her guilt in any way. And she can't help but wonder, like, what did she do wrong? How did she offend him? How is this her fault? And not in the way of, like, how is it my fault? But, like, how? How did I fuck up? It's my fault, and I need to figure out how that happened. And I think that makes it a good time to bring up Mormonism. So quick and short, I promise, background about my relationship with Mormonism. I had a friend in college for a little over a year, we'll call them K, sure, who tried to convert me to Mormonism. See, he misinterpreted my interest in hearing about him talk about his religion as spiritual interest. But the truth is I just really like learning new things, so we had a few long, like hours long, in-depth conversations about his religion, and he thought he was converting me, and I thought that we were just having a good time. But I got a free Book of Mormon out of it, and now I love the idea of collecting religious texts. Just to have. And also, good sound. Now, it's very common knowledge that Stephenie Meyer is, or was, at least at the time of writing Twilight, I don't know, I didn't double check, a practicing Mormon. And that Mormonism has influenced the themes of this book. Unintentionally, at least I believe. I believe unintentionally. Because as authors, we can only write what we know. Period. No matter whether it is good or bad, or even if you're trying to go against the grain, everything we write and create is a product of the life that we have lived. And that's why I say death to the author, but their work is their tombstone. To say that, yes, we can separate the art from the artist, but only so far. They're not there, because the context of which a work is created is important when it comes to analyzing anything. But when it comes to the private enjoyment of things, like what you want, the author's fucking dead. Who cares? As long as you're comfortable, sure. But you have to be comfortable knowing that the tombstone is also kind of right there. You know what I mean? So for your private enjoyment, absolutely, go off. Once you're talking about it on a public platform, a little bit different. But for you personally, live your life, bestie. Don't let people on the internet tell you you're a bad person for liking something in the privacy of your own home. As long as you ain't hurting anyone, it's fine. But the tombstone, in this case, is why I bought this book secondhand. I think that this book is important enough to the landscape of the book community, especially, again, as a paranormal romance author myself, have to respect my elders. I think it's important enough that I should own it, but I don't agree or endorse Stephenie Meyer in any way, shape, or form at all. Everything I've heard about her is, like, not great. So I don't want to give her money, so I didn't. She got her money from this a long time ago. There's, like, I think, a first paperback edition. She got her money already. So my money went to half-price books. And while I'm not Mormon, I am Catholic culturally. I'm a full-blooded Latina, and the girlies that get it. And Bella's guilt feels very religious coded to me. And so from what I know, with my personal experience with religion and other stories that I've seen posted and shared genuinely online about other people's experience with Mormonism, it clicks. But do not take this as 100% fact, as this is all conjecture. It is all speculation. It is not fact. Huge grain of salt. Have a fucking salt lick in the corner, you know? Just in case. Which, you should have a salt lick in the corner for everything. Just saying. But this is all biased, opinion-based topic. We're just having a kiki, okay? But something about Bella feeling guilty that a handsome man is mad at her for her existing wrong, even though she has no idea how or why she exists wrong, feels very poignant, no? And I'm torn between two interpretations. One, which is religion is just starting to peek its head in as a theme in this book. Or two, because of fucking RENEE. This idea that Bella is just so hypersensitive to how she takes up space and worried about making someone else upset, partnered with how much she is constantly worried and anxious about her mom being alone, paints a picture of parentification and emotional abuse. So, what is parentification? Parentification is when a child is meant to behave and take on the responsibilities of the parent of the family. Usually it's the eldest daughter, but it can also be eldest son. It's usually the eldest child, right? But the stereotype is that, like, big sister energy. And that's even more apparent when we take into consideration that Mormonism places a lot of emphasis on reproduction and large families, which leads to a lot of, like I said, big sisters having to act as a second mom for the younger babies, because at a certain point, one parent can't parent all 10 kids. You just can't. And Stephenie comes from a big family that she's very close to and very proud of. Lots of siblings. Wouldn't be shocked if she was unwittingly or wittingly familiar with parentification. Honestly, I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Especially since RENEE centers a lot of her thinking around men, especially. We'll get to that. Bella being hyper worried about a man's feelings when she did nothing wrong tracks, okay? Like I said, RENEE is getting her own goddamn section. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying Stephenie Meyer was emotionally abused. Stephenie Meyer was parentified. I don't fucking know. I don't know her. I'm using conjecture. I'm spitballing, if you will. I want to make it very clear I'm not making assumptions of her as a person. I'm just pointing out similarities, okay? We do not know her personally. For this conversation, she is dead in the ground and we're just looking at the tombstone. This is all stuff to chew on as a fun thought experiment that we will continue to build on as we go through the story. And I know personally as an author that me even talking about this, about the death to the author but their work is their tombstone thought process that I have, I know bringing it up will open me to a lot of criticism for my current book and for any future books I do. And I have to be okay with that. I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't something that I wasn't okay with taking. You know what I mean? But talking about Mormonism and parentification leads me to my next point. Charlie can fucking cook. Prove me wrong. So Edward doesn't come to school the next day, and Bella is stressed about it, doesn't like it. And at the end of the day, she takes time for a little me time, and she goes grocery shopping. Stereotypical, yes, but not a bad thing in its own right, okay? I get it. It's nice to push a little cart around and just be like, maybe this, maybe that. So Bella makes a comment about how Charlie lets her take over kitchen duties since, quote, he couldn't cook much more besides bacon and eggs, end quote, page 31. If you can cook bacon and eggs, you can fucking cook. Especially since bacon, it's a fatty meat that requires attention because you need to render down the fat, and eggs can stick like no one's business and just become a mushy mess. Inedible. Now, do I think that Charlie is making 2 perfect over medium eggs with a beautiful runny yolk? No. But I do believe that he can make a basic scrambled eggs, and maybe on the weekends when he's feeling a little fancy, he puts a little cheese. Now, we have no evidence of that in the text, but the fact that this man is alive and well, it tells me that he's been able to feed himself for the past 17 years. Which he himself says on page 149, quote, Bells, I fed myself for 17 years before you got here, end quote. So, como se dice he can cook just fucking fine? Probably not to the skill level that Bella is at because of parentification, and also because he's a bachelor and happy to have his little 2 pieces of bacon and 2 eggs on, like, for a daily basis. Sure. It is simple food, but it is food, and he is fed. He gets food and water, sunlight on the weekends. He's fine. But I bring this up because I think it's safe to say that Charlie knows that Bella is the parent of the family with RENEE. And so when she asks to take over kitchen duties, he probably took it as, okay, she's starting to feel at home. He likes that she's there, and if she's gonna cook, and then they can have dinner together, have be in bonding mode at the end of the day, that's just icing on the cake. And she clearly does like it because getting to do the shopping and the planning really puts her at ease after Eddie's being a brat. And I love that for them. Bella and Charlie, that is, having a little routine that works for them that makes them both happy. That. Now, in the rest of the series, I have no idea what Charlie does. I heard there's something about a microwave. I don't know. I don't remember. For the rest of the series, he could be as dumb as a doornail, but I don't know it. So for right now, with this book, as in the text as it currently stands, he can cook just fucking fine. Also, I want to point out that Charlie, when he comes home from work, calls out to Bella, and she's being, like, a little asshole about it, which I love, and she thinks to herself, who else could it be? Because he calls out, Bells, to see her, right? And I'm here, like, Bella! He just wants to know that you're home, and for you to see that he's home. He just wants to say hi. And I'm sure that RENEE probably came and went however she wanted without acknowledgement of your presence and of her presence. But girlie, this is a normal thing for a parent to do. I still, when my mom comes home from work, I run out and I'm like, hi mom, how's your day? How's it going? And that's it. It's a short, hey, goodbye. And I go back to what I'm doing. It's a normal thing for parents to do to check that you're breathing. They've done it since you were a baby. It's fine. And I bring this up, one, again, because, like, why does this shock you, Bella? Like, what? Did RENEE never say hi? And she points it out multiple times in the book. It happens like 3 times where she's like, who else would it be? And I'm like, girl. Girl. But this night, he starts taking off his gear, he's settling in for the night, and Bella thinks to herself, quote, when I came here as a child, he would always remove the bullets as soon as he walked in the door. I guess he considered me old enough now not to shoot myself by accident, and not depressed enough to shoot myself on purpose. End quote, page 35. And you should know I burst out laughing. I shouldn't have, but oh my god. It's just such an emo thought to have. I can't help but stan. I'm a simple woman, okay? I just, God, I love her. I think she's so funny. Another example of her being funny on page 75, quote, I want to sweep dramatically out of the room, but of course I caught my toe in the boot of the door jamb and dropped my books. I stood there for a moment, thinking about leaving them. Then I sighed and bent to pick them up. End quote. Just unintentionally funny. I just like her. I just like Bella, okay? Is that such a bad thing? No! Hold on. Okay, I took a quick break to take a lay down because my back is really hurting. It is still kind of hurting, but that's fine. So where were we? We were talking about Bella's sense of humor. So she has this really dry, sarcastic sense of humor, right? And I think that Kristen Stewart was such a very good casting for Bella. I think she was just cast ahead of her time and directed to be a little bit more ingenue. Because if you've seen her in interviews since then, she's funny. She's dry and deadpan, and I think her sense of humor is really charming, and that's how I feel about Bella. Also, weirdly, I have recently started watching Cutie Cinderella, and her humor also reminds me a lot of what I imagine Bella to be, like how I read her jokes, which kind of fitting given Cutie is former Mormon, and has talked, I'm not outing her, talked openly about how it's affected her as a person, and a lot of similarities with Bella as a character before she gets nerfed. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, since Blair is a very real person, and I don't want to put anything on her because I don't know her. It's just an interesting correlation that I noticed, that whenever Bella cracks a joke, I read it in the same intonation that I hear Cutie Cinderella crack jokes. Is all. But back to the story. We left off with Charlie and Bella having dinner. It's a very quiet affair, which Bella appreciates. And I think, besides when he bought her beloved truck with capital T, this is the first time where she really, like, starts to appreciate Charlie. It grows more as the book goes on. And I just want to call it out because it made me wonder who would have Bella have been if she was raised with Charlie. You know what I mean? Because they're so much alike, and I think it would have been really good for her. But here, he's asking about her day, have you made friends? And Charlie knows everyone who's anyone, so he's commenting on kids and their parents, and he's trying to be encouraging, and which is very cute. And Bella brings up the Cullens to try to, like, siphon information, to which Charlie actually gets defensive. Apparently they're a big source of gossip around town, to which Charlie doesn't appreciate. He's a very big fan of Dr. Cullen, to which I had to ask Charlie, are you more like your daughter than we think? I'm just wondering. The inquiring minds want to know. And I will say, and this is the only time you're ever going to hear me say this, but there is something very nice about Charlie just, like, being a good cop. Like, he knows everyone, he's really close, and he's protective about the people on the reservation, and not just them, but he's, like, ready to jump to the fence of Dr. Cullen, because he thinks that there are unjust rumors circulating the town about his character, which is, like, really sweet. And Charlie tells this to Bella. He's like, Dr. Cullen, he's a family man. Him and his wife, they had trouble getting pregnant. They ended up adopting 5 kids so that way they wouldn't be separated out of the goodness of their heart. Not only that, he's a gifted surgeon, and the only reason why their town is so lucky to have him is because his wife wanted to live in a small town. So now Forks gets to benefit because of that, when he could be working at, like, the best hospital in the world. Like, how dare anyone say anything salacious about this man? Not on Charlie's watch. And it's not his fault he's sexy. I'm partially kidding, but Charlie is like, yeah, you know, the nurses do be saying things. They do be talking. So I do... live your life, Charlie. But there's something nice about Charlie being a pillar of the community and just being a guy. He's just a good guy, trying his best, you know? That is what a cop is supposed to be, and is this propaganda? Yes. But I'll accept it this time. Sometimes it's nice to disassociate and believe the best in people, okay? That's what books are for. But it's the next day, and it's the first snow of the year, to which Bella walks out and goes, ew, queen, love her. And since it's so cold, that means our boy Eddie is back in school. And he's being weird. So all throughout lunch, he's just staring at Bella. And then when we get to class, Bella is trying her best to, like, not look at him. She's like, no. Go away, don't look at me. Which I find very funny, given she spent so much time, like, working herself up to how she was going to confront him, and now she's like, no. Me. And I will say, I don't know why this stuck out to me, but the fact that she can feel him behind her, and he pulls out the chair, and I got butterflies. I got nervous. I was like, oh. I had to put it on the book. I had to put the book down for a minute. I don't know what that was about. Whatever. Okay, I'm not proud of it. Okay? It's just, this is when Edward starts to grow on me, and that pisses me off. But, like, they have chemistry. And I hate to say it. I don't want him to grow on me. He's just a weird guy. But, like, they're both smart, and they're both sarcastic, and when their hands touch, there's, like, a literal spark of electricity between their pinky. And it would get me if I was Bella. It would. I would be. I am no better than she is. And he's fascinated with her. He's asking all these questions that no one else has asked her, because, again, they all kind of see her as, like, the shiny toy, the novelty, you know? And if she was more open with other people, would they have been more open with her? Yes, but she doesn't know that, because she's Bella. You know, she's a little dumb in that way. Socially, I think. So the fact that he's doing it right off the bat, just, like, getting straight to the point of asking enough questions, she finds very disarming, and I think that she finds that appealing, because she didn't have to faff with all the small talk of, like, how are you? Where are you from? For, like, the 10 millionth time. You know what I mean? And in return, she gets to ask him questions, and so she asks about his eyes, because she knows that they've changed, and she's like, that's weird. Why do you look different? And instead of saying contacts or anything else, he just lies about it, which just fans the flames of her curiosity, because of course it does. It's very Alexandria Genesis of him, if you know what I mean. And she doesn't clock it, partially because he's asking her questions that no one else has asked, but also because he's pushing her on these questions. He's not, like, letting her bullshit. Like, he pushes her on the fact that she's giving up her happiness for her mother's. And it's clear that she's never thought about it that way before. Her happiness, that is. And this is also where we learn that Phil is a shortstop. Which means he's too young for you, RENEE. What the fuck are you doing? God! Quick math with Persie. If you don't know, baseball players average out anywhere between 18 to 30 years old. Long-running sport. But shortstops are often considered a younger position because they're much more active and much more wearing on the body, especially at a high level. How do I know? Because I was a shortstop. Was I good? Anyway, shortstops usually average out at about 24 to 27. RENEE had Bella at 18, Bella is now 17, which would make RENEE 35. And Bella comments on how Paul makes RENEE feel young. My mother. She's very young for her age. I think Paul makes her feel younger. The attraction was a mystery to me. End quote. Page 106. I fucking hate RENEE. Like, why the fuck are you going after someone so much younger than you? But I will give her the benefit of the doubt. According to the fan wiki, Paul would be 28. Which is believable, given he's in the minor leagues, and also 28 and 27 is the same shit. So maybe we can argue it's not as intense, but I couldn't find anywhere else that said that. Versus with RENEE Dwyer, that shows up a few different places, right? So we're taking it with a grain of salt. But we'll say he's 28. Sure. Character building wise, I love this, because it shows so much about RENEE as a fucking person. She's just horribly immature. And I'm not saying a 7-year age gap is a bad thing. Not if you're both over the age of 25. Over. I need to make sure that you heard me when I said over the age of 20. Once you're over the age of 25. Because if you're under 25 and there's a guy over 25 or 25 who's interested in you, run the other fucking way. And I'm not saying this to shit on your parade. I'm saying this from experience. Why can't he date someone his own age? And that's how I feel about RENEE in this instance. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with it. They're both adults. Perfectly fine. Did you meet when you were adults? We're gonna assume yes. It's just the fact that Bella doesn't mention that her mom loves him. Ever. She only ever mentions that he takes care of her and he makes her feel young. And it's just gross. I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a hater. But no, fuck that. I stand by it. I fucking hate RENEE. I'm getting heated. I'm getting so heated. It's just weird. Okay, it's just weird that RENEE puts such a younger man over her teen daughter's well-being. You know what I mean? Like, he could have gone to Florida by himself to test it out first, and then if it worked, then they move the family. You know what I mean? And that's probably RENEE's doing, not his. But still. Fuck. It's both of them. It's just whack. They're whack. Back to the main characters of the book. Bella is now obsessed with Edward. Because he's obsessed with her. And he's asking her all these questions. And, oh my god, okay. I'm hot. That heated me. And she is pissed that he is infecting her mind. Literally saying that it's stupid that she cares so much. And again, I love that. I love that she doesn't want to be obsessed. I think that we forget that often. Because the turn is so drastic, I think that we forget that there are these moments where she's like, I don't I don't want to like him. I don't want to. But she can't help it, okay? It's not her fault. She's a victim in this. We'll get there. But she's so distracted in her mind thinking about him that she doesn't even realize that the roads are icy. I'm from Arizona. Why would I know what icy is? Didn't even consider how her truck might handle some icy weather. But luckily for her, Charlie, he woke up extra early to put chains on her tires because he cares about his daughter. He wants her to be safe. And he absolutely knew, yeah, no, she would have no idea, one, how to do this, two, that this needs to be done. And she's shocked by this. Quote, Charlie had gotten up who knows how early to put snow chains on my truck. My throat suddenly felt tight. I wasn't used to be taken care of, and Charlie's unspoken concern caught me by surprise. End quote, page 55. Bella! My heart breaks for her so much. She's only 17. She should know what it feels like to be taken care of. I don't care how independent she is. You get independent by knowing what it's like to be taken care of. That's not a universal truth. I'm saying, as someone who cares about her, I'm attached. I'm attached to her. I am. As someone who cares about her, and who is hyper aware about, like, how young she is, that's how I want her to have gained that independence, right? By being taken care of, by given the space to try out new things and always being pushed and challenged and blah, good parenting, but she didn't have that because she had fucking RENEE. Anyway, he treats her like a daughter, okay, the best way he can. But unlucky for him, his daughter's a fucking magnet for trouble. God. And he started knitting again. No, you can see that this isn't a shirt. No. It broke the illusion. My back hurts. But yeah, Bella's a magnet for danger, and fucking as she is looking at her tires, in the moment where she's like, a shiny thing, what's that? Charlie, in that short of a moment, she almost gets hit by a car. So another car in the parking lot hits black ice and goes spiraling and almost slams into Bella, and the only reason why our girly pop is alive is because Eddie, from the half-court line, slams into her using his body to shield her from the car, and my tummy was like a bit of a flutter. I'm but a girl. Like, what do you want from me? I don't know. There's something about a man being bigger and just grappling you. It just does something for me. Anyway, but this is the moment that Eddie becomes our gaslight king. So he tells Bella he was standing next to her, to which she says, fuck you, no you weren't. And I love Bella for this. She refuses to back down, never what. That's Bella. She knows what she saw, and she knows that he's lying because she saw him across the parking lot. Because she was looking for him, but whatever. But she knows that he's lying, and she refuses to be polite about it. She goes, no, I'm going to tell everyone. What are you talking about? And the only way that she starts to go along with the lie is if he promises to bring her into the fold of the conspiracy. And I really like this. I like that this happens right away. I love that it's like this whispered fight while everyone else is trying to move the van. Like, whispering shared conspiracies in the shadows. Like, ugh, it's almost like we're reading a vampire novel. Who would have guessed? Anyway, everyone is losing their minds. An ambulance gets called, and my heart broke a little bit for Charlie. Because, like, by the time that she is loaded into the ambulance, Charlie is already there, and he is worried for his daughter. He's, like, at the gurney, like, are you okay? What happened? What's going on? And she's like, no, stop. But, like, imagine you're Charlie, okay? You're a chief of a small town. You got a thick mustache. Sorry. You're at work. Maybe you're in your cruiser, whatever. The radio goes on. I don't know how cops work. I'll be completely honest with you. Your radio goes on. Someone's been pinned between two cars. One of them is the truck that you bought for your daughter at her high school. The pit that would be in my stomach. Oh my god, my ribs would cave in. Dude, I had a bad dream. Okay? I had a bad dream that I had gotten into a car accident with my cat in the car, in her carrier. And I couldn't get her carrier out while people were trying to get me out. And I couldn't get to her. I woke up and in a panic immediately overnighted one of those seatbelt window smasher thingies for your car, for safety. You should have one in your car if you don't have one, by the way, just in case, you never know. Better safe than sorry, always. So I can't begin to imagine the panic Charlie is feeling as he is speeding to the high school. Oh my god. But all Bella can think about is, oh my god, you're embarrassing me, stop! Because she's 17, she's a baby. Oh, she's such a baby. I love her so much. I'm attached to Bella, dude. I can't. And then, of course, at the hospital, she's even more embarrassed because Edward, he's allowed to walk around everywhere, and as she's getting examined, Tyler is in the bed next to her, and he's like, Bella, I'm so sorry, how can I make it up to you? What can I do? Can I pay for this? Can I do that? Da-da-da-da. And he refuses to shut the fuck up, even when she's like, please stop, I'm sleeping. And again, Edward is there, and he's gaslighting, girl bossing his way to the bank, and Bella won't have it. And I want to call out that when he tries to, like, distract her, like, oh, your injuries, she's like, I've had worse. Stop trying to change the subject. And I'm here like, wait, hold on. No, go back. What do you mean you had worse? What's worse than being thrown to the ground in a panic in order to not get hit by a car? Because let me paint the picture for you, okay? In the movie, it's this, like, romantic slow motion. He gets her by one arm, he stops with the other, like a superhero, right? That's not what it's like in the book. Because in the book, he fully grapples her as they fall to the ground because that's all he has time to do. She is flung to the ground and whacks her head back onto concrete. The van has the imprint of Eddie's shoulders because that's all he had time to do to get her to the ground safely while moving at super speed. Like, sure, she didn't get hit by a car, but she got hit by a fucking truck. Girl, what do you mean you had worse? Why have you had worse? I bet it was probably because of fucking RENEE not watching as a child. Anyway, and while in the hospital, Bella finally gets to meet Dr. Cullen, Eddie's dad. And they're talking. And weirdly, in this conversation, something about it tips off her intuition. And she realizes that she's the only one out of the three of them that's out of the loop, and she doesn't know why. And I mention this because her intuition is something that is mentioned a lot throughout the book, and this one specifically just makes me wonder how strong is Bella's intuition? Because not like Eddie and Carlisle, that's Dr. Cullen's first name in case you didn't know, Carlisle. Weird name, I know. But it's not like they shared a look or anything. Like, it was a very nondescript conversation. But she realizes something is off. Like, something about the way that they're standing is just a little off. And throughout the story, she has a lot of prophetic dreams. Like, this night specifically, she dreams about Edward. Which, okay, sure. He just saved you. I get it. I would too. They're both in the dark, and the only light seems to be radiating from his skin. But she's chasing after him through what she discovers is the forest, but she can never get to him. It's not a direct quote, but it's page 68 in the book. And for the month afterwards, and I think almost every night after this, every single night, she dreams about Edward. And we learn later that at this point, Edward has started watching Bella sleep at night. Again, fucking weirdo behavior. And it's supposed to be that there's this magic pull between the two of them. She can always feel him when he's there, even when she's unconscious. And it feels like it's supposed to be romantic, but it really leans into this, like, supernatural, eerie vibe, which I like more. That's where the story thrives, where it's, like, a little unsettling. You know what I mean? Because, see, the story thinks that it's a romance, but au contraire, mon ami, I think that this story really thrives when it's a supernatural tragedy. Because you see, our star-crossed lovers are almost powerless to not fall in love. Eddie at this point is almost starving to know what she's thinking at all times. Because he can't read her, unlike everyone else. And as smart as she is, she's also really stupid and has no self-preservation instincts at all. Quote, but I felt anxious, on edge, and more than anything else, fascinated. The same way I always felt when I was near him. End quote. Page 93. Not only that, but he's indestructible and cares about her safety. He jumped in the way of a car for her. And then he invites to drive her over an hour to Seattle just so she won't be alone. Not to mention, at one point, he also bridal carries her to the nurse's office when she faints at the sight of blood. Lies to get her out of school for said fainting. Drives her home, and then somehow still magically gets her beloved truck home safe and sound without her even noticing, without her having to ask. Headcanon, by the way, because her truck is so loud and she was waiting to hear it and she doesn't hear it, I like to think that instead of driving it there, he bullied his siblings into carrying the truck home into the driveway to not have to wake her because she's resting, guys. Okay, we have to. Obviously. and Bella especially. She's just a girl who's only ever taken care of everyone else, because she has never had a choice in that matter. And because of that, getting this amount of princess treatment, well, she doesn't really have a choice for falling for him either. No matter how much he says, you should just stay away from me. Like, shut the fuck up. And we'll continue to see this build as the story goes. Okay, so far we have, 4 points of interest? RENEE, with an angry face. Charlie can cook, prove me wrong. Yes, I am counting that as a point of interest. I am dedicated to that. Bella's intuition, ? And supernatural tragedy, with a black heart. For vibes. I'm not going to count Mormonism as a point of interest, even though it had a title card. That was mostly because it was funny. But it's not something that we're trying to highlight as much as it is something that we're using to inform our other topics. Because we all know it's there. Anyway, our two lovers, they haven't quite snapped together like magnets just yet. So she still has a semi-healthy relationship with all of her other friends at school. Which means she gets invited to go to La Push, baby, La Push. And this is where we meet everyone's favorite stinky wolf boy. And while he's not a wolf yet, spoiler alert, Bella does have a dream about him turning into a wolf, so I get to call him a stinky wolf boy. But this is where she learns about the Quileute tribe lore, here at La Push. And I'm going to take a moment to remind everyone that the Quileute people are a real tribe, and Stephenie Meyer put them in her books without any research, any financial compensation, and just kind of made stuff up about their real life history to fit her story. And with that being said, the Quileute people are currently in the process of trying to raise funds to move to higher grounds. It is called the Moving to Higher Grounds campaign. Because right now, they reside in prime tsunami zone territory, and if something as simple as an earthquake were to happen, them and their entire history is at risk of being wiped out completely. So if you want to learn more, not just about the campaign, but also about the Quileute people, I am putting that link down in the description. They have a lot of really good resources. It's fun to just kind of click around. And personally, I'm also donating $5. I am dirt poor. I'm not going to front with you. But I will always put money where my mouth is. And I couldn't do this video in good faith without bringing this up. These are very real people that never got compensated for their involvement in Twilight and who are now asking for help. This is a long-term running project, so it's got a few more years to go. So far, they have finished phase 1, which is super cool, which was moving the Quileute tribal school up to higher grounds, which is just rad. It looks beautiful. I saw photos, completely rebuilt, gorgeous. And they're now on to phase 2, which is focusing on building much-needed housing for the community, which is rad. Like, all of their plans are online. They're very transparent with everything. It's nice. It's really, really nice. And fun fact, I've heard that apparently a lot of their funding came from Twilight fans, which is amazing and really heartwarming. Because even if Stephenie Meyer didn't give back to the tribe, fuck her. Doesn't mean that we can't, you know? Which I think is one of the best examples and uses of separating art from the artist and the impact that that can have. So, like I said, link in the description. But back to the fake lore. So Jacob meets Bella and he thinks that she's pretty. And while she does feel a little bit awkward about it, she is still able to, like, use her womanly wiles. And she flirts with him in order to get him to divulge his tribe's secrets. Or his tribe's stories, I should say. Stories. But they're secret stories. And I bring this up for a couple reasons, but the main one being for my awkward girlies. And boys. For my awkward friends. If you feel like maybe you're not pretty. Maybe you're a little uncomfy in your skin. 1, yes, you are. Don't be mean to my friend. First off, get that shit straight. 2, no one knows how you feel, baby. If you flip your hair and bat your eyelashes, you can get pretty far. I'm just saying, like, no one needs to know you're lying. And yes, you might be bad at flirting. That's okay. Any skill can be learned. Okay? I believe in you. So if Bella can do it to learn things that she's not supposed to, so can you. And Bella learns way too much that she's not supposed to. She learns that the Quileute tribe is thought to be descendant from wolves and that they have beef with the Cullens specifically, which Jacob finds funny, because what do you mean we have beef with this one family specifically that's only been here a couple years? What do you mean that the cold ones? Vampires aren't real? That's some old people shit. What are you going on about? And I will say, he does feel bad about delving into his family's deepest personal mythos, which is meant to be kept held secretly in the most sacred parts of his heart, but gosh darn it, Bella's so pretty. She's a pretty girl. She's giving him attention. It's not his fault. He's just a girl. And Bella does like him. Like, she feels bad because she likes him, even now. And while she feels bad about it, she is having a fun time flirting with him. Like, she likes him. She likes his husky voice. She thinks that he's really pretty. So she likes talking to him. He lights up her insides. It's chapter 6. Now, let it be known. Jacob is named after Stephenie Meyer's brother. Unsure if it's little brother or big brother, but it's named after Stephenie Meyer's brother, and I don't want to read into that too much, personally. But I don't think that it's going to be possible for me as someone with 2 brothers, unless you also want to count my uncles who were raised alongside me and helped raise me because they're older. Then I have 4 older brothers, and I can't imagine in any universe naming a younger brother character who has a crush on the main character after one of my siblings. Ever. Period. It's just me. Every one of my main characters inhabits a tiny spark of me. Thus is the creative process of being an author. And so the idea makes me really uncomfy. But also, before I was in a deeply committed relationship that I am in now, I couldn't date Hispanic men. I'm gonna be so for real with you. Simply because if they put on one of those like little newsboys caps, suddenly I'm looking at my brother. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. It's weird. Couldn't do it. So I want it to be known when we talk about the character of Jacob here and in future novels, I cannot be unbiased about my ick that I get. And we haven't even gotten to the ickiest bits yet, but I can't. And I like Jacob in this first book. I think he's a cutie pie. I think he's very sweet. I want to kind of pinch his cheeks. I think he's cute. And then I remember that that's her brother's name, and my insides squirm just a little. And I'm telling you, so that it may color your opinion about my opinion going forward. I never said I was unbiased. Ever. Not here. Not in these videos. And I have more thoughts about the whole brother thing when we get to book 3, I believe. And for the girls who know, no. So, I think it's 3. It's 3, right? I'm basing it off the movies. And so I'm like, how ripped is Taylor Lautner? You know what I mean? It might be 2. Fuck, I don't remember. Whatever. It's the girlies who know, okay? It's not my fault if no girlies know. Anyway. And this conversation that Bella has with Jacob, it sticks with her. She goes home and she becomes consumed with the need to go home and research the supernatural. And Bella and we're the same, baby. Like, I too was consumed with the need to research the supernatural at that age, and I didn't even have a mysterious man consuming my every waking thought. I'm saying I should have read this book as a teenager, and it's bad and also very good that I didn't. But Bella researches so much about vampires that she literally freaks herself out so much that she has to go and sit outside. And unfortunately, sitting outside also freaks her the fuck out because now she's vulnerable and she's in the open. And she's like, I am stressed. And me too. Especially because she's outside when she officially comes to terms that there is no other option. He has to be a vampire. Which, saying it out loud sounds silly. I know. I get it. I hear the click, click, click. That's a stupid thing. I get it. But here's the thing. We are going with her through this journey of discovering. Of putting the pieces together. And shit, I believed it too. I was like, no, yeah, of course. Of course he's a vampire. Yeah, there is no other option, Bella. You're right. And then after this, Bella has another dream. Which almost completely foreshadows the next book. It's Bella, she's in the forest. Edward, he's out of her reach, and he's like sparkling. And now it's not just like light, it's like sparkly light. Almost blindingly slow. And he has pitch black eyes. Jacob is in between them. He's turned into a wolf, and he's like pushing her back. And then Mike off to the side being like, no! Bella! So, I wonder what that could mean. But again, how good is Bella's intuition? I have to ask, because I love the idea of, like, she is supernaturally sensitive, and that's how she ends up here. Not just because she's just, like, the prettiest girl in town, you know? The idea that it is this, almost like it's, like, this predestined fate that she will always fall. Like, she's never, like, this is a test that she's never meant to pass. You know? Like, that, it interests me. It interests me so much. And, like, in that same, semi-same vein of, like, the supernatural, predestined fantasy stick, Edward at one point tells her that she's not a magnet for accidents, but rather a magnet for trouble. And I love that idea too. they all link into each other, right? And I have thoughts about her being a magnet, but it won't come up for another 3 books. It comes up in book 4. So remind me in the comments of video 3. Hey Percy, you want to talk about her being a magnet? Because I want to talk about it in video 4, okay? That's your job specifically. But I'm hoping that it's something that we're able to build as we go through the books. I think I got something there. My noggin, she's chewing on something. Maybe it's a chew toy. But back at school, Bella is trying her best to be a good student, but she can't because she's consumed with her obsession with vampires. And personally, I wish that it meant that she, like, failed a test, missed an assignment, you know? But no, she's too perfect for that. So she's looking straight A's. All the while, she's just, like, doodling, you know? Quote, I sketched inattentively along the margins of my homework. After a few minutes, I suddenly realized I'd drawn 5 pair of dark eyes staring out the page at me. End quote. Page 142. I know I said I instead of eyes. Shut up. But this book is genuinely at its best when it's a little eerie. Just a little that, you know? But speaking of the 140s, by the way, I don't have a good transition to this, like a good place to put it either. But page 141, quote, Charlie came home with a large catch, and I made a mental note to pick up a book of recipes for fish while I was in Seattle next week. End quote. I regret not marking the page, but Bella also comments on the freezer always being stocked full of fish. Because he's too good a fisherman, okay? They're running out of room. And then later, again, I didn't mark the page for this either, but later, the Blacks bring over Charlie's favorite fish fry, right? And yes, Billy Black, Jacob's dad, is using this opportunity to talk to Bella about leaving the Cullens alone. Like, don't mess with what you don't know, little girl, type shit. But it's not noted by anyone how that's a weird thing for them to do. Bring the fish fry over, that is. Like, that's just not out of place for them. Charlie's like, oh, hey guys, like, yeah, absolutely, thanks. And if Charlie can't cook, what does he do with all the fish? And it's not like fishing is a new thing for him. He's gone fishing every Saturday since forever. It's his me time. It's when he decompresses from being the pillar of the community. So what does he do with the fish? I mean, cooks it probably. Just saying. There's at least enough fish in the house that Bella feels the need to have a recipe book to be able to cook it all. Right? That's a lot of fish. I would like to propose a theory that he can cook fish just fine, but Bella doesn't count it because she doesn't like it. Or better to phrase it, that it doesn't count because it's not up to her standards. He probably just fries it, but that's not good enough. That's not healthy enough. It doesn't count the same way that only being able to cook eggs and bacon doesn't count. As if just because it's unhealthy bachelor food, heavy quotes on that, but I'm holding yarn, that it doesn't count as real food. And that's not how that works. Food is food and fat is best. Now, I'm not saying that RENEE gave Bella an eating disorder by drilling home that only healthy food counts as real food and that GMOs and red dye 40 should be avoided at all costs because they're the devil. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Because free spirit woo-woo changed my daughter's bedroom into a yoga studio the second she moves out, even though there are still belongings here, RENEE Dwyer, does seem to fit the bill, no? And, like, there's no title card for this because this isn't, like, a fully thought out take, I will say. It's just a thought I had while writing the script. So it's not something I put a lot of research into while reading the book. Nor would I, honestly, because I'm personally not educated enough to talk about eating disorders with the amount of education and sensitivity and awareness that I would like. It's just an interesting observation I had while putting together the script. And if anyone else does a book theory on this, tag me. I want to know. I want to see it. Thank you. Anyway, the whole reason I even brought up the whole fish thing is because the reason why Bella is so worried about whether or not Charlie can feed himself is because she's going to Port Angeles with her girlfriends Jessica and Angela. I always want to say Angelica because I had a family friend growing up named Angelica. But they're going prom dress shopping. Cute. And she is really, really worried that Charlie would simply starve himself if she wasn't there to feed him. So much so that she leaves out cold cuts for dinner on the top shelf of the fridge, as if he's a child coming home from school and can't be trusted to use the oven unsupervised. Which, note, I think the dinner that made Bella want to take over the kitchen was akin to deli slices or something similar. So, like, what the fuck, girly pop? But this is when Charlie goes, Bella, you know I fed myself for over 17 years before you got here, right? That's where that quote comes from. It comes from here. That was page 142. And Charlie, he also does the parenting thing where he's like, where are you going? Who you with? Where are you going? How long are you going to be gone? Are there going to be boys there? Etc., etc. Do you want me to go with you? Which Bella finds very irritating because, again, she's so used to being alone all the time, even before she came to Forks, that she's like, why do you want to go? Why do you want to know? Like, leave me alone. And I say even before she came to Forks because, yes, he does leave her alone on the weekends, on Saturdays. I think Saturdays and Sundays. But he leaves her alone, at least to go fishing, and he goes fishing every weekend. But, I don't know. Part of me thinks that if he did stay home, to be like, no, I just want to be home. What you doing? She'd be like, leave. The hell? Like, I feel like she wouldn't like it. She'd be like, why are you worried about me? Why do you want to be inside? She would do the parent thing. Why are you here? What are you doing? What are you hiding from? You know what I mean? And keep in mind, I have mentioned the abandonment issues thing. It's like, oh, well, why does she have abandonment issues? She likes being alone. She likes being alone. She hates being left behind. Which is why I think why specifically I think RENEE was going to leave her behind in Phoenix to go to Florida. We're saying it again. Big letters. But like I said, Charlie, he volunteers. He's like, do you want me to go with you? And she's like, how dare you ask me that? No. Also, let it be known, he does this a lot. He will always ask her and always volunteer. Hey, do you want me to stay home with you? He's like, he volunteers to take her to Seattle so she doesn't go alone in case anything happened because it's an old truck. He volunteers to stay home with her when she said she wasn't going to prom because he was worried that no one asked her. He loves his daughter, okay? It's sweet. It's not his fault that she's grown up so fast and he doesn't know how to deal with that. It's no one's fault, except for maybe RENEE's. But the three girly pops, they go on their girls' day out. They go to Port Angeles, and she has a decent time. Decent enough. She enjoys the girly talk of it all, which, again, makes me wonder who would she be if she was raised here? It's a question that haunts me and probably will haunt me the rest of the series. Would this series still happen? Is it predestined fate? Or is it a horrible mixings of tides? But even though she enjoyed the girly talk, she still does go off on her own to try to find a bookstore. She loves books, and she's like, I want to go look. And eventually, she does, unfortunately, get lost, trying to find her way back to downtown. The bookstore that she looked for wasn't what she was looking for, basically. But yeah, do you want to know why she got lost? Why she got distracted? Because she saw a stupid fucking silver Volvo on the street. And it pissed her off. Quote, stupid, unreliable vampire, I thought to myself. End quote, page 156. And I love that she's at the point where she's accepted already without confirming that he's in fact a vampire. In her mind, no. Fuck that stupid vampire. He's annoying as shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's so funny. God, Bella, I love you. But she's pissed because the weather is supposed to be nice this weekend, and she learns the Cullens always go camping when the weather is nice, and she hasn't been able to see Edward recently, so she's like, he's not gonna show up, you know what I mean? Because he's supposed to take her to Seattle, like I said. But yeah, the Volvo distracted her, she took a wrong turn to get to downtown, and now there are no people around. It's just her. And because she's alone, men show up, and they're like, ooh, pray. Ugh. And this patch is actually, like, pretty upsetting, because Bella's intuition, again, kicks up. She's like, something is wrong. They're too loud. They're too close. They're following me. I don't like it. And then she swallows it, and she talks herself out of her instincts, and she's like, no, it's probably fine. They're just going in the same direction I'm going. And she talks herself out of it, and too late, she realizes that the group of men that was following her, they had split in half, and they were able to herd her off into an alleyway alone. And it's genuinely upsetting when she turns the corner and they're there and she goes, I've been herded. I have a quote for you. It's a little bit long. Quote, with a quick movement, I slipped my purse over my head, gripping the strap with one hand, ready to surrender it or use it as a weapon as need demanded. Stay away from me, I warned in a voice that was supposed to sound strong and fearless. But I was right about the dry throat. No volume. Don't be like that, sugar, he called, and that raucous laughter started up behind me. I braced myself, feet apart, trying to remember through my panic what little self-defense I knew. Heel of the hand thrust upward, hopefully breaking the nose or shoving it into the brain. Finger through the eye socket, try to hook it around and pop the eye out. And then the standard knee to the groin, of course. That same pessimistic voice in my mind spoke up then, reminding me that I probably wouldn't stand a chance against one of them, and there were 4. Shut up, I commanded the voice before terror could incapacitate me. I wasn't going out without taking someone with me. I tried to swallow so I could build up a decent scream. End quote, page 161. I love her, I fear. God, I love her. I love her. Like, oh, what do you mean? And weirdly, I also think that this is a really, probably the most accurate depiction of the character of Bella that we have known so far. Like, someone who has some grit to her while also accepting her fate a little too readily with open arms. And even then, is still like, I'm at least gonna go down swinging. Alright, cool. I'm not gonna do well, but I'm gonna do my best. And she got a good head on her shoulders, okay? She has a decent head on her shoulders, okay? Like, I just like her a lot. I like her a lot, and I wish that this version of her stuck around for the rest of the books, but unfortunately, we will get there in time. But at this point, she has her purse gripped in her hand, and at this point, we have our knight in silver Volvo making his grand entrance. And grand it is. You see, he fishtails his way into the middle of the group of men, the passenger side door already flung open as he comes to a stop, okay? That's already hot. And then he tries to run him over. Okay. And that's not even like me mentioning his commanding voice. Okay, I get it. Bella, me too. There's just, I'd fall for him in this moment. I would. I simply would. I am but a woman. None of that weird growling intimidation shit we saw in the movie. No, he tries to run them over. Good. And he only does it because they jumped out of the way. Good for him. Good for him. And like the two of them, they're a match made in fucking heaven because he's sitting there and he's asked like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, cool. Distract me. Blabber on about something unimportant. And this girl fucking goes, quote, I racked my brain for something trivial. I'm gonna run over to hire Crowley tomorrow before school. End quote. Page 163. I love her, and I support women's wrongs. What do you want from me? But this does make him laugh, and Edward regains his composure, and he brings Bella to the girlies who were worried about her. They were waiting at, like, the dinner. They started eating, and she didn't show up, so they're gonna go look for her. That's when he brings her, right? And I only mention it because Edward invites himself to take Bella out to dinner. To which Angela does the girl thing, and she's looking at her like, yeah? Is that what you know? And she only says, yeah, no, like, we can go home, like, that's no problem, once Bella, like, winks at her and gives her the clear. She's like, yeah, you know what? Have a good time. We'll see you at school tomorrow, bye. She, like, drags Jessica along with her. I love women, okay? I love them. Back to Edward, I guess. They go to dinner. She has the mushroom ravioli and a Diet Coke. He has nothing, and they talk. Which, at one point, Bella says she's good at repressing unpleasant things because Eddie says that he's waiting for her to go into shock. Page 169. Not nice. Bella, why do you have that? You shouldn't have that. What are you talking about? He doesn't question it. He just goes, yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Why? And I can't think of a single other thing that happens or that she mentions in the book that is so unpleasant that she needs to repress. That was just left in there. What are you talking about? Oh my god. Anyway, we're gonna fly past that since they did. This dinner scene, I do like. I would suggest it as like a quick read because it's actually quite flirty. And low-key, I would have loved to have done this scene like back in the day when I was still in school because it's just fun. Like the back and forth is fun and interesting and I can think of a few different ways to play it. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's dry, sometimes it's not. It's fun. I don't know what to tell you, okay? I like it. But this dinner, Bella starts calling him on his shit. She calls out that he's crabby when his eyes are dark. And she calls out that he has this weird power to show up at just the right time to save her. To which he says, quote, I was wrong. You're not a magnet for accidents. You're a magnet for trouble. End quote, page 174. Again, with the magnet imagery, just saying, it's interesting. But he ends up telling her that he can read people's minds, which she is too ready and willing to accept. But she's already accepted he's a vampire without telling him, so guess it's small potatoes in comparison. And if anything, she's just more worried that he can't read her mind. She thinks that there's something wrong with her brain. And I think, personally, that she's just said that he can't give her something that he can give to everyone else. She feels excluded in that way. Because Bella's not like the other girls, but I think she secretly wants to be. And I don't think she knows how, or she doesn't think that she's allowed to be. There's something there. And my brain's like, what is it? Anyway, now we as the audience know why he is so starved to know her innermost thoughts, because he can't have them when he's so used to having them. And on the way home under the cover of darkness, in the liminal space that is the car at night, we get the iconic, I know what you are, say it, moment. I'm having a good time. And he admits to her that he is in fact a vampire, whoops, and so is his entire family. I do love the iconic forest scene, especially with like the jumping around like leapfrogs. I do like that, but there's something so fitting about this admission being done in the car at night on a long road. It's not good for TV, but it's good for the eerie vibes. I'm just saying. Because he admits he wants to eat her more than he wants to eat anyone else on the entire planet. And she is locked in a speeding car with him. The tension, it's juicy. It's just juicy. And I think we can see this as a warning flag that maybe Bella already has a bit of an adrenaline junkie in her. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But they make it home in one piece, and Bella asks Edward if he's going to be at school tomorrow. He says yes, like her. He also has a paper due. And he smiles and says, I'll save you a seat at lunch. Which is cute and flirty. We love it. Okay. And then she asks again, do you promise to be there tomorrow? That's on page 192. And this, I think, is the first crack in the glass that made me wonder, did RENEE leave Bella home alone a lot? Because that's the only option. No? Why should have so much anxiety but also be so comfortable being alone all the time? This, like, are you gonna be there when you said you're gonna be there? I'm fine being alone, I just need to know, you know, like that type of anxiety, that juxtaposition of anxiety is just interesting to me. And then this is when I started wondering, is it possible that RENEE was gonna have Bella emancipated for her to stay back in Phoenix while her and Phil went to Florida, if Bella didn't move in with Charlie? Again, I don't have proof of that, but I can't help but wonder when and where and why are the fear aspects of the loneliness coming from? She's not scared of being alone, she's scared of being left behind, and it's just so interesting. But Edward promises, and it takes this moment to ask Bella for a promise as well, to which she agrees way too fast. Let him ask first before you agree. Don't write blank checks, not here. And he asks her to promise not to go into the woods alone, since he's not the scariest thing out there. And my heart was like, it was a little aflutter, like, okay, scary. Protect me, daddy. But I will say, this is like the only instance that I can think of the first hints of a climax happening in the book. There's not a sex joke there that I can make quickly. I'm just saying, like, there's something out there. Only time it's kind of mentioned. Hey, maybe there's something happening, you know? Whatever, this book is 20 years old, it doesn't matter. But I don't blame Bella at all for falling for this man. There's something really intoxicating about a man who can just get shit done. Like, And that's why it makes us blush when he almost runs over the men in the alleyway. They were a threat. Not only did he save her from the threat, he was ready and willing to fix the problem completely. We love that. And personally, being on the smaller side myself, I am 5'2". There are things that I just can't do. No matter how strong I get, no matter how much I lift, a bigger dude can always pose a threat. If anything, he can just pick me up and throw me. I'm chubby now, and my partner can pick me up and throw me. He's actually talked about that before, not on my channel, but he's talked about it before, where he's like, yeah, if I can pick you up and run away, so can someone else. And that's why I'm anxious when I don't see you in public, as if I'm a child. My partner is ex-military. I do want to put that out there. He's ex-military, so he has reason for anxiety. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But having a bigger man serve as your protector is attractive. Especially when that man is supernaturally strong and indestructible. Like, I get it. I get the allure is there, obviously. And also, there's something really alluring about him confessing wanting to eat you carnally. I get it, okay? I still wish she wasn't, and I quote, unconditionally, and irrevocably in love with him, end quote, on page 195. Way too soon. Way too soon. You can say you're in love, but not, like, unconditionally in love. Don't do that. You shouldn't be unconditionally in love with anyone, firstably. Anyway, the next day, he picks her up from school because he's a gentleman, and he surprises her, and she's like, oh. And they're being cute. He's sharing with her what people are thinking, and there's this cute moment where he calls out that Jessica is, like, dying to know, are the two of them dating, what happened, and Bella's like, well, what should I tell her? And Edward's like, I don't know, can't wait to find out, and walks away, and I'm like, cute! And, like, it's a power move, alright? I get it. How many times can I say I get it in one video? But then at lunch, Edward desperately wants to be made an honest man. It's so bad. And they immediately start fighting. They start fighting, and it's annoying. And it's the only adjective that she uses to describe him in this scenario is angry. And I don't like that. I don't like it. Like, I want the banter back. I want the tension. What happened to the cute flirty this morning of, I'll be listening? What happened to that? What is this bullshit? Oh my god. And then in biology, they have a movie night, so the lights go down, and Bella can feel the electricity between them. She just wants nothing more than to touch him. Horny bonk. No angry sex for you. Stop it. And then biology leaves. Don't think they say anything. He doesn't walk into class because on the way to gym, she gets stopped by Mike Newton, and he tells her, quote, you and Cullen, huh? I don't like it, end quote. To which she says, quote, you don't have to, end quote, page 221. And I love when she is standoffish and irradiates confidence and a little bit of an asshole. Like, I want more of that. But you see, after this, now that our star-crossed lovers are officially dating, Bella starts to lose herself and her sense of confidence in this relationship. And they become obsessed with each other. And when together, they're either over melodramatically proclaiming their love, or trying really hard to keep it in their pants, or fighting. And that's it. They got 3 licks, and that's it. Proclaiming their love, keeping it in their pants, or fighting. That's all I know how to do. Sorry. And that's not fun. It's not fun. She also feels the need to hide it from Charlie, which I don't fully understand. Like, she doesn't want them to meet just yet. And she hides it from Charlie that Edward's the one taking her to Seattle, which I think is weird. I did reread the end of the novel yesterday just to make sure I had all the quotes and stuff, and so I have a bit more of an understanding as to why she might feel the knee-jerk reaction to hide it from Charlie, but it's still weird to this extent, right? We'll get into that. But Charlie, on the other hand, he's asking, like, are you still going? Like, are you sure you want to go? Because he's worried that no one asked her to the dance. And Bella thinks to herself, it must be stressful being a dad, worrying that your daughter might find a boy she likes, but also worrying that she won't. I didn't write down the page number for that, so sorry. But I think he just wants to know that you're happy here, and that you're having regular teenage experiences, which you're not, which also kind of are. You know, he cares, okay? And I will say, even as they're in the relationship, they are still getting to know each other, and there are moments that I do find very sweet. Like, there's a day when he asks her all these questions, just trying to get to know her, and she comments that she's not used to someone asking what she likes, which I understand she's not used to being the center of someone's attention, but I get that. But never having anyone ask what you like, that kind of hurt a bit. That hurt my heart. And so the flip side of that emotion was, oh, well, I'm happy that he's asking you that and that you get to experience what that feels like. But why don't you get to feel what that feels like? Because, like, what do you mean? Doesn't your mom ask, like, what are you into nowadays? I don't know. But this feeling specifically, I think that everyone deserves to have. Like, this feeling of getting to know someone who is so completely new and that never-ending game of 20 questions. It is a rite of passage that I think everyone deserves to go through at some point. That level of infatuation is just mwah. There's a reason I'm a romance author, okay? Let me have this. And it reminded me of secretly being on the phone with someone until 6 a.m. and hiding it from my parents because I'm not supposed to be up that late. That's what it reminded me of. Which, and it like, again, another weird liminal space, like shrouded in darkness. All walls are down. Which I remember telling this to an old coworker that I had who was, like, on the edge of retiring. It was a few years ago. And he had no idea what I was talking about. Because he mentioned his daughter, who was much older than me. He's like, yeah, no. She would do this, and then my alarm would go off at 6, and she would close, and then we got the phone bill, because it was a landline. And he was like, isn't that so weird? And I was like, I did that with my cell phone. What are you talking about? That's the only difference. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so now I'm asking you, do you still do that? Do the youth still do that anymore? Or is it on FaceTime? I think FaceTime would be significantly worse because there's something really nice about being under the cover of darkness. Like, it's just this. All you're focusing on is this. You're not looking at it. Nice. It's nice. Try it. It's nice. And even when they're being, like, all over melodramatic, I can't even say that's even all bad. He asks her at one point, what is her favorite gemstone? Which she blurts out, topaz, and gets all embarrassed because it's the color of his eyes. And then she says, but I'm sure if you were to ask me a couple weeks from now, I would say onyx. And I'm a lover girl, that shit's cute. That shit's cute until you realize it's been less than a week, and then it's less cute. And that's where the issue I have is, personally, as most people do, it happens all way, way, way too fast. And it's because it's really, really odd, especially in these opening days where you know they've only been together a couple days, and she's lamenting about the fear of losing Edward and how painful that would be, because it feels like it's kind of coming out of nowhere for a girl who not too long ago was so independent that her dad was, like, worried about her, you know? And part of me wants to roll my eyes at, like, the ridiculousness of that, of the melodrama, of the feelings, your entire chest. And then I think back to being that age, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So that, partnered with the fact that this feeling that she's talking about is a genuine feeling. The only difference is it's a feeling that I didn't get till I was an adult, you know? This anxiety of being happy and in love specifically, like very specifically, knowing that something bad can happen to this person that you love so much and that you could lose them. And, like, the best way I can really describe what that feeling is, because it's different to other types of anxiety and other, like, fear of loss, you know what I mean? It's this feeling of, I'm never gonna be the same again type feeling. And the best way I can describe it is you turn around and you're suddenly looking over the ledge of somewhere really high up that wasn't there before, and knowing in your gut that the fall would kill you. Even if you have both feet firmly planted on the ground, that anxiety is very, very real. It's just, the anxiety of lost love is wild to me. Anyway, I'm gonna move past that. Now that you've looked into my chest, we're gonna move past that. And it sucks because she's almost helpless to be in this situation. I'm going to put this down. Did I make it a full round? No. I have that much left. I'm going to put this down, though. I think it's important to address that she's almost helpless to be in this situation, right? Because we have to address the power imbalance that's happening here. And I don't mean the age gap. That's baby's first argument. We just have to live in this world, and it's fine. Sure, he's frozen at 17. Okay, cool. That's whatever. But rather, Bella is someone who suffers from parentification, as we've talked about, as we've seen. So much so that she low-key imposes it on Charlie, even though it's something that he's never asked of her. The cooking, the cleaning, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, from the top rope, here comes Edward Cullen tanking a car hit for her, running over her would-be assailants for her, arriving punctually to pick her up before school for her without asking. Every morning. She's never been taken care of like this. And especially not by someone who she thinks is gorgeous and bulletproof, and that's intoxicating. But that level of devotion and that protection and that safety and knowing that he's bulletproof, like, Bella, as she is today, there's nothing that she could have done to not fall in love with Edward. And then, on the flip side, it's important to acknowledge that he's just as desperate for her. And while it's less of a power imbalance, because he has all the resources in the world to avoid her, except for willpower, even though he's supposed to have, like, super strong willpower, whatever, it's important to acknowledge that he's also intoxicated by her. And not just by her scent that makes him want to gut her and slip her up like a slushie, although that doesn't help. But he's intoxicated by her quiet, and not just fascinated by it. Like, he is intoxicated by the fact that they can hang out and he's allowed to just be the only voice in his head. And yes, here in the meadow scene, he does compare to heroin and cocaine, so much so that it made me wonder, Eddie, do you do cocaine in your free time? And that it's just not important to the story, so it's never mentioned? I like to believe so. Because he literally tells her, like, You've never had it. You wouldn't understand. Eddie, what the fuck? But that doesn't change the fact that she is the only person in the world that he can stand to be around without feeling like nails on a chalkboard. Because with everyone else, he is privy to their deepest, darkest, and most selfish thoughts all the time. And he hates it. He would hate her if he could hear her dirty thoughts and what she was thinking in the meadow scene alone. Horny bonk. Literally 90% of my margin notes for this section just say horny bonk. Stop it. Bonk, bonk, bonk. But also I think this is the best chapter in the book. Which it should be, personally. I think it should be because this book only exists because of this scene, but more of that in a second. This is where Eddie tells Bella everything. Everything. He shows how his sparkly diamond skin, and we'll also talk about that in just a second. He confesses his entire family history, that he's 108. We learn he was disgusted by the 60s and 70s. Don't know why, since he likes cocaine so much. He confesses that every aspect about him is meant to draw in his prey down to his scent and the sound of his voice, which Bella is way too into. She's like, yes, daddy, lure me. Which, genuine question for the seasoned adults in the audience, which is most of you. Hi. Do you think when she's turned that they have prey scenes, or do you think it's pretty vanilla? Because I think that they do. She got too much of that dog in her. She really loves being in danger. And it's one of those things that makes her feel alive, and it's more prevalent in the next book, but it's very clear here that not only does she enjoy it, but Heike craves the bug, right? Like, she's ready and willing to die, and if she lives, how fun. You know, like, what the fuck? She's excited by danger, and, oh, the consequence is death? Oh, well. Bella, baby, what do you mean? But quickly, back to the skin like diamonds moment. First of all, moment for the highlight is blue and sparkly. I hope you can see it. Moment for the highlight. Thank you so much. Now second, I know I haven't mentioned the movie much in this video. We all know it's iconic. Personally, I think it's the best book to movie adaptation out there. Except for this moment. Because the text says, quote-ish, diamonds embedded in his skin, glittering like crystal, end quote-ish, page 260. I think I smashed two quotes together for that. But Stephanie Meyer has said in the past that this is the moment that inspired the entire book. She had a dream, how fitting, of a man in a meadow glimmering so brightly it was as if he was a man on fire. And I would like to propose to the council that maybe instead of diamonds like this, maybe we can say that his marble skin can shimmer like a fire opal catching flashes in the afternoon sun. Consider. This has nothing to do with this video. It's just food for thought. I think I read it on Tumblr like 10 years ago. That's what I'm choosing to be correct. But back to the meadow scene. So this entire scene, it's just them nuzzling and touching each other to see how far they can push it before one of them cracks. Very Mormon coded, no? And yes, vampires and sex go hand in hand. It's the very taboo nature of it all. But in this case, sex does not equal the taboo of the bite or the blood, but rather sex equals death. And could that be some hint of religion coming back into play with the villainization of premarital sex? Yes. But I think that's a given. And I mean more in the literal sense. Because if he kisses her for too long, he won't be able to control himself from cracking her open like an ice cold can of Coke, the beverage. And she's kind of into it. Quote, I sat without moving, more frightened of him than I had ever been. I'd never seen him so completely freed of that carefully cultivated facade. He'd never been less human or more beautiful. Face ashen, eyes wide, I sat like a bird locked in the eyes of a snake. Don't be afraid, he murmured, his velvet voice unintentionally seductive. I promise. He hesitated. I swear not to hurt you. End quote. Page 264. Dark romance could never, okay? Mostly because of the lost art of longing. Because longing seems to only exist where we hold space for it in queer media. Which I understand why. But still, bring it back. Bring back longing into mainstream media 2025. I want someone to be so scandalized by a sliver of skin poking out from a hem. God! And that's why this scene works so well, because Bella is ready and willing to end it all if it just means getting a little smooch between her legs. Sorry. This partnered with how the entire book so far, she has talked about being depressed, okay? And how if she lost Edward, she would just die. Unclear if she's being facetious. But it paints a picture of someone with death romanticization. No, I can't say that word, I realized. Whatever, I'm keeping it in. And yes, this macabreness is sprinkled in with them proclaiming their love and talking about how much they're suffering from how horny they are, because neither of them have ever felt a fire in their loins before. So they don't know how to deal with it, you know? But we can't ignore the thrill that she gets when she feels his ice cold hands on her throat. And I'm like, babe, that's a knife! Hey, hi, hello. Okay, so I took a bit of a break. If you haven't seen this entire time, I'm wearing a headband. I was trying to channel Bella with this outfit, but I had to take a break because I hurt real bad. My back hurts. My pelvis really, really hurts. So I just want to hop on here and say that I'm taking a break for the night. It's just gonna be, it'll probably be a day for me. It's just gonna be a second for you, don't you worry. But I want to check in so we can acknowledge that I had a Bella-inspired outfit. Okay. And that I contoured the shit out of my face to try to make myself look pale and gaunt. I don't know if it worked, but that was the intent. So will I have this makeup on again? Will I have this outfit on again? No. We probably won't even be in this location again. But we're not gonna talk about it, like always. And like always, I always leave it in my videos whenever pain stops me from filming, whenever I have to take breaks, whenever I have pain flares. I think you saw one earlier in the video. I always leave them in because chronic pain is real, and it's a real son of a bitch. So, just to make invisible illness a little bit more visible, I am in a lot of fucking pain. I'm gonna go work on this in a dark room. So, I will see you when I see you. I'm not even gonna try to do a transition because I know I'm gonna forget. Okay, love you, bye. How you guys doing? She's beauty, she's grace. Hello. New location, new hair. We got the lizard shirt on. Okay. We got little lady, she's eating food. I have my knitting. And let's hop back to where we were. I put my sizzling 7-Up next to the microphone. Why would I do that? That's goofy. That was one of the goofiest things I think I've ever done. Okay. What we're talking about, all right, how they're so fucking horny. Oh my god. And I can't really begin to oversell just how horny these two individuals are, because like it's bad. And part of it is also because they talk about how they've never experienced a feeling like this before. They've never hungered like this before. Bella in particular is like, I don't know what this feeling is. And Edward on the other hand is like, I am but a man, like I get it, but I've never like this, right? So they are ready to go at it at any given moment. And I personally think that if she just had a vibrator and she had just like a little bit of alone time, like her blood pressure just, it wouldn't be so high, and then she wouldn't pass out every time he tries to fucking kill her. Which brings me to today's sponsor. No, I'm kidding. Oh my god, but imagine Adam and Eve. Call me. Let's make magic, okay? Like, I think would be a good fit. Anyway. Sorry. And then, to top off this entire, like, meadow scene where they're nuzzling and touching and he then tells her that he likes to watch her sleep without an ounce of embarrassment. And I, personally, am not one to get embarrassed. I don't know what shame really is. That's why I'm on the internet. But even I get a little like, oh my god, when I'm caught gooning over my boyfriend changing. And we've been together for years. You know what I mean? Like, so what do you mean that you were saying this while giving her just like the cutest little heart eye? That's not what? And not only that, but like in Midnight Sun, we learned that at one point he brought WD-40 to her house to make it more efficient because the window would stick. I know I said I like a man who can get shit done and get problems handled, but that's not what I meant, Eddie. And she even says, she's like, I know I should be worried, but I'm just flattered. And I'm like, ma'am, fucking buy Buy a vibrator. God. We're pro vibrator in this house. Where are my vibrators? I have to plug mine in, actually. Hold on. Okay. If you haven't charged your vibrator, this is your reminder. Alright, anyway. But now that we are back home, this is the first night that Bella is aware that Edward is spending the night with her, right? Oh my god, I'm trying to grow out my bangs, but I need to trim them. They keep getting caught in my eyelashes. Anyway, she's aware that Edward is spending the night with her, playing, again, that endless game of 20 questions, which is pretty cute when they're not proclaiming their undying love for each other. Again, the melodrama is fine everywhere else. It's the undying love specifically, where it's like, okay, well now it's not fun anymore, guys. Come on. And then, even though they're doing that, she still is asking for reassurance. Like, quote, "Are you sure you won't vanish in the morning? I want this to be certain. You are mythical after all." Page 309. And she's framing it as like this flirty joke, but she asks him that a lot. She asks him, like, "Are you sure you're going to be there tomorrow? Promise me you'll be there tomorrow," even before they were officially dating, but now it's, like, even worse. And one, it makes the next book so much worse, especially the ending scene of this book. Jesus Christ. Which, like, good. We want stories to hurt, you know? But, oh my god, it makes me not like Edward. And two, Bella, why are you so scared of being left behind? Why? Sorry, I can't yell the way I normally would because I'm at my in-laws' house and I don't want to yell about vampires and vibrators in a Catholic household, okay? I'm sorry. So, you get me screaming in lowercase. This is also the night, sorry, my boyfriend texted me. Again, I'm talking about the blushing. Anyway, so this is the night that I've seen a lot of people point to for Book Charlie for being a bad dad because he unhooks the battery in her car so that she can't sneak out. Is that great? No, but let me paint you a picture. So, Charlie comes home from fishing, he eats dinner with his daughter like normal, and she inhales her food, and then while it is still light out goes, "Okay, I'm gonna go to bed, good night." And then when you ask her about it, she's like real cagey and suspicious. Okay, then she goes, showers, comes down in her pajama and wet hairs to tell you goodnight again. Not something that she normally does. Yeah, she's for sure sneaking out in the middle of the night to go meet a boy. What are you talking about? It's not a crazy assumption to make, and he's also correct. She's just not sneaking out, but she is still meeting with a boy. So... And the next morning, Edward tells Bella, while cradling her like a baby in a rocking chair, my chubby ass could fucking never, have you heard of momentum? Whatever. He tells her Charlie left an hour ago, but only after he reconnected battery wires. Now, is what he did the right thing to do? No. It's crazy. Now, is he a single dad in 2007 where shit like this was normalized? Yes. Does that make him moral? No, but it more understanding as to why he thought it was okay, right? And now, can I see Chief Charlie Swan staying up late on the sofa in the dark so he can catch his daughter sneaking out so he can flick on the light and go, well, well, well. Also, absolutely fucking yes. And I bring this up to showcase intent versus impact because I think that's important in this series as a whole. So I want to bring it up now. The impact was not great at all. But I don't think that his intention was bad, given he's her dad and the intention was to look out for her as her guardian, right? Because she's told him about her friends. She's told him, I'm not interested in a boy. So if she is sneaking out to meet someone, it's a boy that she is hiding or friends that she is hiding from him. And he knows everyone in town. So if she's hiding him, it's not good business, you know what I mean? Versus when Edward does something similar in later books, his intent is to take control out of her hands, even though she's being fully communicative and clear about where she wants to go, who she wants to see, who she wants to talk to. And do you see the difference? The impact is the same, the intent is different, and that nuance is important. Also, personally, I like to headcanon that Charlie, the reason why he unhooked her battery is because that is something that his dad did to him when he was a teen and he was sneaking out. And he was really excited to catch Bella sneaking out. You know what I mean? He was excited for the wow moment. And I think that's really funny. Also, I think that there's something to say about Charlie treating her like a teenager. For the good and the bad. You know? It's consistent. I appreciate it personally. Again, don't do that. But it makes me like him more. In a weird roundabout way. But back to Edward cradling Bella like a baby. She is so overjoyed and surprised at the fact that he is still there in the morning that she throws herself, arms up, and throws herself into his lap. And at one point he, like, mentions that he had to leave to go get a new pair of clothes, so he can't show up to Charlie's house wearing the same outfit that he wore yesterday. Even though Charlie didn't see him, but Edward's like, but what about the neighbors? You know, he wants to be an honest woman. He doesn't want to seem uncouth. But he goes and he changes, and he tells her this, and she gets upset. She, like, pouts. It upsets her. And even though he was there when he said he was going to be there, he was still there when you woke up. I don't understand the problem. And I'm asking, like, this fear of abandonment. Did RENEE leave you alone a lot as a child and not tell you when she was going to come back? That's, like, what else could it be? And I understand the insecurity of thinking, because Bella doesn't think very highly of herself, right? And she thinks the world of Edward. So I can see, like, the insecurity aspect of, like, why would he choose me? He's gonna leave me, like, I'm not good enough. Sure, I get that, but that's not what she's thinking. It's the fear of not having him next to her, right? Later becomes the insecurity, like, it will feed into that. We'll see that later, but in this book, specifically, I was waiting for that to come up, and it never does. It's just this gut-wrenching, no, please don't leave me, please. I need you to be here. And it's like, babe, why? But do you see why the story fascinates me so much? Like, the macabre nature, that might not be the right word, but that feels right in my heart. So the macabre nature of these two complete polar opposites in every way. Every part of them is incompatible to the point of guaranteed death for both of them. Even though that's, like, their worst fear of something happening to the either or, right? But they're so powerless to not fall in love. Because of course they are. They are the perfect formulation to intoxicate one another. But the story itself seems to think it's this teeny bopper romance with the, like, guaranteed happy ending. And it's not. The story you're telling me ends with both of these people being heartbroken. Either both being heartbroken or both being dead. That by itself is also a really beautiful tragedy. Because what makes the story good is these big heightened emotions, is these big, like, fatal attractions. Like, that's what makes it good. So it's fine if it ends in death. It's fine. The story is at conflicts with itself because of what it thinks it is versus what I perceive to actually be on the page. And, like, the pitch that you're lobbing me here, Stephanie, it's a guaranteed home run. And yet you choose to bunt, and then you slide into home anyway. What? But speaking of baseball, Eddie boy, still, he wants to be an honest woman so badly. And Bella can't tell him no at this point, because he's like, no, I want to meet your father. I want to court. So he goes to meet Charlie officially as Bella's date, and to pick her up to bring her home to meet his family in order to play baseball. This is also where we learn that Eddie is the first vampire that Carlisle ever turned in his family because he was lonely. And personally, I can't help but wonder, do we think now that he has Bella that their coven is, like, a little too big? Like, do we think that he's gonna go off to start his own coven with Bella and Restaurant and Wolf Boy? Is that an option? What do you think? Let me know. Especially because, like, he's the most powerful one there. Like, it would make sense. And then Alice being, like, a fun floater. I guess we'll just have to wait for September to find out. Also, personally, I do ship Bella with Alice. I will do that spoiler alert now. We don't see much of Alice in this book, but everything I have seen over the years is just, again, Bella destined to be bisexual, forced to be straight. It's fine. Anyway, at this point, Eddie's getting on my goddamn nerves because they go in their own car to meet up with the family for baseball, right? Because he had to go pick her up, so they're meeting them there, okay? They get up there, and they're still ready to go at it at a moment's notice, and he starts nuzzling her like a cat, like, up against the car, like, you know what I mean? Gross. And he's, like, drawing his nose up her neck. Scandalous. And then he kisses her, and he gets mad at her when she kisses back just as ferociously. Don't fucking do that to my girl. Like, no. You kissed her. You pinned her up against the car, and she can't push you off. Not that she was going to. She wants to kiss him, but I'm just saying, you're the initiator in this. And now she's saying sorry? I'm gonna fucking beat your ass. And he says that he's not mad at her, but, like, you took her anger out on her. Even if you're like, you're angry, I'm just angry at myself. You still yelled at her. You raised your voice, whatever. Which you know that she is already willing and ready to self-sacrifice at the drop of a hat. And now you blame her for this? For having a human reaction that you are both having? Why the fuck would you do that? Golly. And then maybe consider, don't say, quote, now please try to behave yourself, end quote. I didn't write down the page. God, even if you're just trying to be, it's like, even with that line, if you're just trying to be flirty, you just got mad at her when you kissed her, and that's the line. You pick a different line. Be better at flirting, you bitch. Like, can we say toxic? Again, dark romance could never. Dark romance wishes it was Twilight. But baseball happens, and honestly, just go watch the scene from the movie. Like, it's way more iconic. The book could never, in this sense. Really, the only thing missing in the movie is Esme lovingly holding Bella like a dog. She's already accepted. This is my child, thank you. And she's holding her, and she tells her with a huge smile on her face that, yeah, no, she did kill herself. She threw herself off a cliff. Yeah, it's great. Ugh. And I don't say that as like, yay, Esme died. No, I say that as like, that's such a good choice. Yeah. Have her lovingly tell her, yeah, no, I did do that. Like, nice. That's so funny. Dark comedy. Anyway. Also, the movie seems better because the movie sets up earlier in the story that there are other vampires lurking around versus, because yes, there are other vampires lurking around. I know I haven't mentioned them because the book hasn't mentioned them at all up until this point, but they've maybe been alluded to a couple times before this of like, we're dealing with something, you know what I mean? There are more dangerous things in the force besides me, that, but never outright that like, hey, something's happening. I think the movie does this a lot better. But one of them is named James, and he decides he wants to kill and eat Bella. Which, this never made sense to me, personally. Because why wouldn't you guys be like, hey, that's our snack for later. Alright? Like, let us have our fun. We have to live with these people. We have to make it look like an accident, okay? Thank you. Shoo. Like, it's one thing that, yeah, sure, Eddie gets really protective over her. It's like, no, she's mine. And that makes it a game for James. Sure, okay. It's funny that they have her as a pet. Alright. But if you lie and say that she's your snack for later, doesn't that like a whole different set of rules? And I mention this because, like, I don't know if it would be, but it feels like it should, considering that they respect the bounds of the territory. Like, oh, this is our territory. Maybe we don't hunt here. They're like, yeah, sure, you got it, babe. Why wouldn't they also be like, hey, no, that's our snack. Goodbye. And they'd be like, get the next one, you know? It feels like it could have been a lot easier if Edward was just a better liar, honestly. Anyway, she's being tracked, because of course she is. And Edward wants to take her out of town, but Bella, she starts ripping and thrashing at her seatbelt. She's like, absolutely not, take me home, because of Charlie. And it's really refreshing to see, like, she's yelling at him. She's ready to throw herself out of the speeding car for the safety of her father. She's like, absolutely not. And I imagine, like, kicking the dashboard, trying to rip out the... She probably just could have pressed a button, but she couldn't figure it out. So, ripping at herself. You know what I mean? I love that. Hi. Hi. Okay, what was I saying? I don't remember. So she's fighting and thrashing, and she's like, no, I will kill myself. Take me back to go see my dad. And I love that. I do. Again, I want Bella to fight Eddie a lot more. Not physically. Not talking about abuse. I mean, Eddie always thinks that he knows best, and I want for this relationship to kind of feel a little bit more equal. I think that she needs to have a little more agency of being like, yes, no, and him respecting that, and that is the icky, sticky point for me, personally. In the rest of the series, from what I remember-ish, again, correct me if I'm wrong, please, correct me if I'm wrong, but in this book, specifically, this is one of the moments where I'm like, yes, bitch, you tell him no. And not only that, but I really appreciate that she's the one that kind of thinks of the plan of, we'll talk about the plan in a second, but she's the one who thinks up of a plan because Eddie is like, he's panicking way too much, and the impact that her being tracked, it's a much bigger impact on her and her family and her community than it would be on theirs, because they're vampires, you know what I mean? So the fact that she's the one to be like, no, okay, this is what we're going to do to keep my life intact as much as possible, I really like. And the fact that she just wouldn't take no for an answer when it came to the safety of her father. Absolutely not. I love my dad. And it's nice to see some of that old Bella back, that grit that I was talking about earlier. I'm sad that it had to be in this circumstance, but the plan is for her to go home, storm off to make it look like to the tracker that she is not coming back, right? She is running away so that Charlie is not in the line of fire, right? Smart, cute, fun, love that. Smart, sexy, we love. He's probably waiting up because he's excited to hear about her date, and again, Charlie just wants his daughter to have a normal teenage experience. I think it is safe to say that that is his prime motivation, to keep her safe and to have normal teenage experiences that he experienced, what have you. God. And then she bursts in, she kicks open the door screaming, which is the worst thing for him to hear, because she's coming back from this date with a guy, and she's ranting and raving, she's screaming, and he immediately gets on the defensive, like, are you okay? What did he do? Did he hit you? Like, are you alright? And my heart breaks. You can come back in. He's just waiting at the door. Hi, baby. And my heart just hurts. My heart hurts so much for Charlie in this moment. And for Bella, and I'll explain why in a second. Not just because she has to, like, break her father's heart, but for other reasons. Because what she does is, in order to make sure that Charlie doesn't follow her and, like, lets her leave on her own, is she screams at him what her mom screamed at him when her mom left with the baby, with Bella, back in the day, when she first left him. And what the fuck? Oh my god. Quote, I can't do this anymore. I can't put down any more roots here. I don't want to end up trapped in this stupid, boring town like Mom. I'm not going to make the same dumb mistake that she did. I hate it. I can't stay here another minute. His hand dropped from my arm like I'd electrocuted him. I turned away from his shocked, wounded face and headed for the door. End quote, page 393. And then, quote, just let me go, Charlie. I repeated my mother's last words as she walked out this same door so many years ago. It didn't work out, okay? I really, really hate forks, end quote, page 394. And the reason my heart hurts for Belle in this moment, past having to hurt her father, is that there is no excuse for Bella to know these words. Because genuinely, there is no excuse for why Bella should know what RENEE told Charlie all those years ago. At all. And we don't know which one of them told her, you know, given the context of the entire novel, though, where Charlie sees her as his daughter and RENEE sees her as a friend. I think it's safe to assume it's RENEE. Sorry, I got passionate there. And honestly, she probably did in that same conversation where she told her, don't get pregnant and married at 18. God. RENEE just has a history of leaving people behind with little thought on them or their well-being or how they would feel. It's what she wants and only what she wants. And I know that's unnecessary hate on RENEE, because, you know, she's probably just telling her, don't do it because it ruined her life and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I get that. I just hate RENEE, okay? That is a valid thing. She's learning from her mistakes and trying to tell her daughter to be better, but I don't trust RENEE to handle anything with nuance. God. Anyway, she's still being hunted. Hunting happens. Emmett carried Bella like a football. Amazing visual. And Bella ends up going with Alice and Jasper. They take her back to Arizona while the rest of the family stays behind to guard Charlie and try to hunt down and kill James, right? But see, James is good at this because he goes, or he has his girlfriend go, or wife technically. He gets her Arizona address. That place is absolutely infested with scorpions. But he gets that family address, and he goes through all their stuff, and he's able to trick Bella into thinking that he has abducted RENEE. Which only really works because they're supposed to be moving back this week because Florida didn't work out. Who would have guessed? But Bella is able to evade Alice and Jasper, and she runs away, gets caught by James, and instead of killing her, he decides to make a snuff film. As one does, I guess. And completely insane, because what did Edward do to you? He's making this snuff film to give to Edward after Bella is gone. They said, hey, maybe don't hunt on our land, and also be nice to our pet. That's it. Actually thinking about that, that's like an insane retaliation for like what they did to them. That's wild. Okay. James also uses this snuff film as a time to monologue, because I guess he hasn't had a chance to do an evil monologue in a while. And we learned that James was actually hunting Alice when she was a human, because like she has no memory from before she was a vampire. She has no idea where she came from. But we know that she was in an asylum, assumedly because she was already having like premonitions about the future, and that there was a vampire who worked in the insane asylum who was obsessed with her, and like she was his pet, you know what I mean? Okay, so I guess, of course, Percy is an obvious parallel. I got it. Very, very surprised. The doctor worked in the same asylum, because he ended up breaking out Alice when James was hunting her. He broke her out and then turned her right away, which made James really very upset that he couldn't hunt her anymore. He took the game away. So, yeah, I see the parallel. I get it. I don't like it. It still feels like insane behavior. It is insane behavior. It feels like insane retaliation, right? And this is really interesting because Alice is, like, really interesting as a character, and she's a really fun character. So, like, the reveal of... we get to learn her backstory is, like, really cool, and I think if Stephanie Meyer knew that she was going to be making so many more books, again, this is meant to be a duology, that she would have, like, held out for the next one. I still think she should have held out for the reveal for the next one anyway, but c'est la vie. I'm not a millionaire, okay? I'm not a millionaire writer, so what does my opinion hold? Nothing. But what I do find very interesting in this is that James comments about how good Alice smelled, right? She smelled even better than Bella did, which could Alice have been like the singer of some sort? I didn't write it down. The soul singer, the blood singer, whatever, what Bella is to Edward. Could that have been why she smells so much better than Bella? Because Bella canonically smells good to everyone, just extra good to Edward? Unclear. But it does imply that there is some correlation to how stinky you are, how powerful of a vampire you would be, which I just think is interesting. It's never talked on. And unclear if this is like an evolutionary? There we go. Unclear if this is like an evolutionary thing, because as an evolutionary thing, doesn't make a lick of fucking sense. Because you would think if you smelled delicious, you are less likely to be turned and more likely to be eaten, right? But I guess Meyer would be a creationist, no? I have no proof of that. I'm just spitballing as we're recording. But it's just interesting, no? How stinky you are to how powerful you are. All this to say that Bella should be as powerful as Alice when she finally becomes a magic vampire girl, okay? She is our main girl. She should be more powerful than Alice, and I guess some would say that she is, but I don't think that she is, but we'll talk about that in video 4. Do not let me forget. Comment on video 3. Comment on this video. Do not forget to talk about this. The power set and what that means. I'm getting loud. I need to calm down. I don't want them hearing me screaming about vampires. Anyway, James bites Bella. Family kills James. Edward has to slurp up Bella's delicious, delicious blood for her own good. And then she wakes up in a hospital like a week later being told that she fell down 2 flights of stairs and out of a window. Absolute fucking camp. I love it. I hate to say it. I love it. It's so fun. Also, I imagine Alice curled up like Sonic the Hedgehog and threw herself down 2 flights of stairs, all the while going, whee! That's how it happens in my head, and I wish that we had a scene of that in the movie. I know why we didn't. Tonally, it's different. I think it would have been a good movie edition, personally. But at long last, we are at the final section of the video, which is fuck RENEE with an angry face. God! Now that Bella's in the hospital, we finally get to see RENEE in her full splendor. And see we do, because Bella wakes up and RENEE immediately makes it about her. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Quote, she bent down to hug me gently, and I felt warm tears falling on my cheeks. Bella, I was so upset. I'm sorry, Mom, but everything's fine now. It's okay. I comforted her. Page 465. What the fuck do you mean you comforted her? You're the one in a hospital in so much pain that you can't move. And you're the one comforting your mom? Oh my God. And yes, I understand saying sorry for worrying, right? Especially because your parents, your loved ones, you're doing something reckless. I'm so sorry I worried you. I get that. You did run off, okay? Bella is still at fault here a little bit. But why is your mother's first phrase out of her goddamn fucking mouth? I was so upset. Not I was so worried, not are you okay? I was so upset. You've upset me. Beat your fucking ass, RENEE. God damn. And while we're at it, fuck you too, Edward, you're not exempt from this. Yeah, sure, he saves her, he never leaves her side, blah, 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 blah. Why the fuck are you letting her apologize to you when, again, she is the one in the hospital bed? Even if she has apologizing to do, this conversation can wait till later. Are you okay should be the first fucking thing out of your mouth. And I think Edward does say, are you okay? But the point being, now is not the goddamn time. Especially because the things that she was apologizing for is she's saying she's sorry that her blood tasted good because she was dying and you needed to save her. I'm sorry that I tempted you. Edward gouged her eyes out. Also, why are you saying sorry for thinking that you were going to save your mother's life? And this is a little nitpicky, that one, because Edward does say, no, I understand why you did it. But she's saying sorry for it, and you go, no, it's okay. I understand why you did it. Say, hey, anyone would have done it. No need to apologize. I get it. Why are you letting her apologize for that? Why are you letting her... Because apology implies blame. Apology implies taking accountability. What does she need to take accountability for her blood tempting you and tasting so good that you're suffering? Again, gouge your fucking eyes out. And apologizing for saving her mother's life. Again, should she have? No. But, like, come on. No, it's not worth apologizing for. And I understand it is her inclination to blame herself for everything and to take responsibility for everything. That is something that she needs to work on, but that is between her and her therapist. You are her loved one. And she... Camera turned off. Because, Bella, you are also not exempt from this. You need to work on this. But Edward, as the able-bodied person in the room, have you considered now is not the time for her to feel bad? She can't move. She's in the hospital. Just offer her a shred of comfort. You're supposed to love her. Love her. Do the loving. This entire scene, Bella is the only one doing the comforting from her comfy spot in her goddamn hospital bed. And that's crazy. That's crazy work. But I will say, at least now, it makes sense that she has, like, a panic attack at the thought of Edward leaving her. It makes more sense now that he has saved her life. I'm not saying that he didn't save her life before, because he did, but now the trauma of being haunted, that terror, that PTSD, one would say, it's a different type of overlooming terror, right? That is more understanding that will leave an imprint on her than rather just existing as it was before. The panic attack is much more understandable. Okay, but back to RENEE. We're still in the fuck RENEE section. Quote, "You're lucky Dr. Cullen was there. He's a very nice man. Very young, though. And he looks more like a model than a doctor." Page 465. Could have stopped at 1. Could have stopped at 1. You're lucky that he was there. He's a very nice man. Could have stopped there. Perfectly concise. There was no need to mention how young and attractive he was when your daughter has been unconscious for days. Almost a week. And this is not helped by the fact that she then excitedly tells Bella that she gets to come live in Florida. Sure, it makes sense because Bella did just run away from Forks being like, I can never live here, I'm being trapped. So I understand where she's like, we have a solution, it's okay, you know? But what the fuck? Do you mean you're only going to be away half the time? And that is your selling point. Quote, "We've talked about it a lot, and what I'm going to do is trade off and on the away games. Half the time with you, half the time with him." Page 466. The away games are what, 3 days? 4 days? Phil can't be alone for 3 or 4 days? At least for the next year while Bella finishes high school and before she goes off to college? You can't wait? What do you mean, half? What do you mean, half? Especially since Bella just ran away from home. That is a big deal. Bella's dealing with something and you're like, I'm only going to leave half the time now versus before I would go for everything. What the fuck are you talking about, RENEE? Ah! And then she gets weird about Eddie. And yeah, sure, it's established that she doesn't want Bella to fall in love at 18. Okay, fine. And Bella did just run away because of how much she was feeling for Eddie. So I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I am, genuinely. But I have 2 quotes for you that we're going to talk about. Quote, "I want to talk to you about that." Oh, hold on. Let me get into character. "I want to talk to you about that." "What about?" I asked. "I think that boy's in love with you," she accused, keeping her voice low. End quote. And, quote, "Well, he seems very nice, and my goodness, he's incredibly good looking. But you're so young, Bella." Her voice was unsure. As far as I could remember, this was the first time since I was 8 that she'd come close to trying to sound like a parental authority. End quote. Page 467 and 8 respectively. One, why accusing? Why accusing? There's no fault here. Bella didn't trick him into falling in love with her. She's a pretty young lady. They're both 17 to her mother's knowledge. Pretty young woman. Why are you accusing her of he's in love with her? What? 2, my goodness, he's incredibly good looking. Ma'am, that's a minor. Handsome, sure. Cutie, alright. Incredibly good looking is weird. And 3, 8. You let your 8-year-old tell you what to do? RENEE, grow a fucking backbone, first off. My heart fucking hurts for Bella so much. And this could just be me. This could be my hatred of RENEE clouding my judgment. I am willing to admit that. Call me out if it is. But the fact that these two things come back to back, it comes off as if she is jealous that her daughter is dating someone more attractive than she is. Or that she is dating someone more attractive than her mom thinks that she is worth. Yeah, right? Like, she thinks that her daughter is not pretty enough to pull this man. And, like, yeah, okay, she's kind of right. There is something that's not right here, something to be a little bit suspicious about, but it's not at the fault of Bella, in any case of the word, nor do I think RENEE would be able to sniff that out. How do I know she's not that bright? The entire book. And then, she fucking, oh my god, she leaves her daughter to drive home to the Phoenix house, again, home, to catch a call from Phil in Florida. The hospitals have payphones. Leave a message. I think they still have payphones, I'm being completely honest with you. Just a quick, hey, Bella's woken up, she's doing better. I'll call you later, or I'll call you tomorrow. I want to spend time with my daughter who almost died and who's been unconscious for the past 4 or 5 days. Click. Either she didn't think about being proactive and calling him, but rather waiting for him to call her, or she doesn't know how to work a payphone. I'll be nice and go with the first one, but mostly because everything she says in this chapter either circles back to or solely around men. And I think she only asks Bella once what hurts, but only after Bella moves and goes, ow, and she goes, what hurts? What hurts? Everything. She fell through a window, to your knowledge. And then she leaves saying, quote, I'll be back soon. I've been sleeping here, you know, she announced, proud of herself. Oh, Mom, you don't have to do that. You can sleep at home. I'll never notice. ... I was too nervous, she admitted sheepishly. Sheepishly. There's been some crime in the neighborhood and I don't like being there alone. End quote. Page 468. Okay, so now it's not a good thing to be alone. How fucking convenient. Your daughter has been unconscious for 4 days. At least lie. Say you're spending the night there because you're worried about her. Like, don't make it about you. And of course, here comes fucking Eddie making it worse. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about the whole RENEE thing. I think RENEE is the core problem. RENEE is the monster of the story, quote unquote. Like, she's the reason why, at least from what I have extrapolated and from what I think I've shown you, hopefully, that either in the text or the implications in between the text, the subtext, we can extrapolate that the reason why Bella is the way that she is because of RENEE. Almost everything is because of RENEE. And it affects the whole story. It's the reason why Bella is powerless in the situation to fall in love with Edward, even if it leads to her death. Because she doesn't know any better. Because she had a fucking shit mom, and that sucks. Especially at 17, where you don't have that much life experience. All you know is what your parents have shown you. Yes, you're almost an adult, but you're still 17. You're a teenager. You haven't gone out and lived the world. You're still in the safety of your parents' home. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones guiding you through this, and she has guided her straight to a monster that would kill her. And that is tragic, and that is so horribly sad and haunting in a way. And I think that's where this story thrives, in that eerie hauntingness, in that, oh, you sweet baby, you don't know what you're doing. That dramatic irony is beautiful to read. It's the reason why Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy and not a romance. Don't let anyone fucking tell you Romeo and Juliet is a romance. William Shakespeare is not fucking stupid. All of his romances and his comedies end with a marriage, and all of his tragedies end in death. What does Romeo and Juliet end with? Death. Like, it, and the tragedy is what makes it beautiful and makes it interesting. That's why we still talk about it to this day, this childlike folly that happens in this book. But again, it's that classic misunderstanding. This book thinks that it's a romance. It's not. And it all circles back to RENEE. like I said, Eddie swoops in, makes it worse. He is confused as to why Bella wouldn't want to move to Florida. And she's like, because then you can't come out during the day. Florida's too sunny. You'd be trapped only coming out at night like a real vampire. Hilarious having this conversation in a hospital. And he goes, quote, yeah, I wouldn't go with you. You would go and I... Oh, it's not a quote. This is me. And he goes something along the lines of, yeah, I wouldn't go with you. You would go and I would go somewhere far away to keep you safe. So naturally, her heart rate monitor starts spiking, going crazy, and she starts hyperventilating. Because she's now been terrified for days that she's been hunted and was going to die at any moment. Like, the terror is just around the corner, and you were her saving grace. You are the person who actively saved her by slurping on her like a fucking slushie. Yeah, she's attached. Yeah, you leaving makes her feel vulnerable. No fucking shit. God. And I'm not extending him the grace of being a child and making mistakes, because yes, he's mentally stuck at 17, but he has life experience. He has 108 years of trial and error under his belt. Even if he cannot emotionally move past 17, he's a smart 17-year-old at least. He knows 1 + 1 = 2. He has multiple degrees. Okay? But finally, he ends up comforting her. He at least should be emotionally intelligent. God. Anyway, he ends up comforting her, and he tells her, I will be around for as long as you want me, and as long as it's what will keep you safe, right? What is it? As long as it's what's best for you. Which is just gross, because who's going to be that deciding factor? You? You're going to be the one that decides what's best for her, and whether or not you should stick around, even though she's begging you to stick around. Which is a great lead into the next book, honestly. But God, again, dark romance could never. And like, I don't think in any case Eddie would be the best caretaker for deciding what's best for Bella, given that he is already refusing to turn her into a vampire, even though they are both in agreement that they are so deeply in love and that they're going to be in love forever, and he wants to spend forever with her, but he's still like, no, I won't turn you. I don't think that you're the best one to decide what's best for her or not, if you guys can't come to agreement on a simple conversation like that. Again, back to RENEE. I read this last chapter, and suddenly everything in the book made sense. Everything about Bella finally clicked. Her fear of abandonment, her hyper-independence, her fear and her hyper-awareness of the space that she takes up, and her fear of being a problem for Edward. Specifically, like circling herself around a man. It all makes sense as to why she is the way she is, and it just drives home that she was never going to be able to tell him no. She was never going to be able to walk away from Edward. The same way that he would never be able to walk away from her, because being next to her, alone, away from everyone else, is the only time he's allowed to be in his head by himself. And being able to exist in that quiet lets him feel just a little more human again. They were made for one another, but not willingly. And that's not romantic, but fuck is it captivating. Especially with how this book ends in the prologue. So Bella thinks Edward is he's changed her mind, he's going to turn her into a vampire. She gets all dressed up, she's wearing the boot. She's in a dress that is based off of a fashion runway, but we're not going to talk about that. That's so silly. That is so silly, but makes so much sense. It makes so much sense as someone's personal escapism. Anyway, but no, instead, he's taking her to prom. And I think that we were robbed in the book of Charlie getting to see Bella go off to prom. All he wants is for her to have human teenage experiences. That's it. And we don't get to see him enjoy that after the heartbreak of her running away. How unsatisfying is that? Because she gets ready at the Cullen's house, because Alice is the one who helps her get ready. Just have Alice come to the Swan house. Anyway, my gripes about this aside, the final line of the book are, quote, I said, I love you more than everything else in the world combined. Isn't that enough? Yes, it is enough, he answered, smiling. Enough for forever. And he leaned down to press his cold lips once more to my throat. End quote. Page 498. Oh my god. That open-ended ending? Bitch. The question balancing there. Leaving us to question. Did he kiss her? Did he turn her? After everything that we have gone through. This eerie, written in the stars tragedy to keep the ending ambiguous is genius. And I don't think it was meant to be. Nothing about this book that I personally enjoy and find interesting to ponder and to chew over is intentional. And that's wild to me. Anytime Stephenie Meyer could have turned left and made a little interesting choice, she turns right. Every single time. And I am left flabbergasted at how we still end up here where we are. Because by all means, this story should be a derivative, boring romance. And a lot of people think that. Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of people just see the thin story of Twilight and see it as a boring derivative vampire romance. I get that. But I think that it was never meant to be a romance in the first place, and no one told Stephenie Meyer that. And if she had tried to write a haunting, eerie, captivating tragedy, she never would have come up with this. And the fact that people see this story as a derivative romance, when in fact it has now had the opposite impact of so many huge franchises have now started as fan fictions and cheap copies of Twilight, is fucking insane. The impact that this story had, again, intent versus impact, is just wild. The intent being this beautiful romance, the impact being this haunting tragedy, and everyone kind of experiencing something different. And the fact that it has staying power, the fact that we had the Twilight Renaissance over the past 2 or 3 years, it is still making these cultural waves when the story itself is pretty fucking bland. It's insane. It's insane to me. And I can't get over it. And I guess now you know why I can't help but think about Twilight at least once a week. And do I like Twilight? Fuck if I know.